The resignation letter sat on the polished mahogany desk like a loaded gun. Ethan Cole's hands were still shaking as he turned away from the corner office, the office belonging to the woman who had quietly become everything he couldn't allow himself to want. 6 years of his life gone in a single envelope, but staying would have destroyed him completely. What he didn't know was that walking away from Sophia Lynn would be the moment both their carefully controlled worlds would finally shatter. Before we dive into this story, I want to invite you to stay with me until the very end, because what happens next will surprise you. And please, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The Chicago skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ethan Cole's apartment, but he barely noticed anymore. At 30 years old, he'd stopped seeing beauty in things that used to move him. The city lights that once inspired him to grab his camera now just marked another day ending, another evening of microwave dinners and bedtime stories read with exhaustion pulling at every word. "Daddy, you're not doing the voices right," Maya said, her small hand patting his cheek to get his attention. At 5 years old, she was perceptive in ways that broke his heart. Ethan blinked, realizing he'd been reading the same page of her favorite book on autopilot, his mind somewhere else entirely. "You're right, sweetheart. Let me start over." He forced enthusiasm into his voice as he became the big bad wolf, and Maya giggled, her dark curls bouncing as she snuggled closer. This, right here, was what mattered. Not the empty side of the bed that had been vacant for 3 months. Not the note that had been left on the kitchen counter, clinical and brief like a business memo ending a partnership that had lasted 5 years. "I can't do this anymore. The kid, the responsibility, the way you've disappeared into being a father. I need more than this half-life. Don't contact me. Rachel." Ethan had read those words so many times he'd memorized the handwriting, the way the ink pressed harder on certain letters, as if anger had guided her pen. He'd burned the note 2 weeks after she left, but the words had already carved themselves into his mind. "Again," Maya demanded when he finished the story. "It's bedtime, princess. We've read 3 books already. But I'm not sleepy." "Close your eyes and try," Ethan said gently, kissing her forehead. "I'll be right in the next room if you need me." He waited until her breathing deepened before tiptoeing out, leaving her door cracked open the way she liked. In the living room, he collapsed onto the couch and stared at his laptop, where tomorrow's presentation glowed accusingly. The product launch was in 2 weeks, and he was nowhere near ready. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, his closest friend at the company. "Dude, Sophia's asking about the timeline again. You good?" Ethan typed back quickly. "Almost done. We'll have the deck ready by morning." A lie. He'd barely started. The truth was that Ethan Cole, head of product development at Horizon Tech, was drowning. He'd been drowning for months, maybe longer. The work that used to energize him now felt like an anchor dragging him underwater. Every morning was a negotiation with himself to get out of bed. Every evening was a race against time to be present for Maya before collapsing into exhausted sleep. And through it all, there was Sophia Lynn. Ethan opened his email and saw her name at the top of his inbox. The message had come in 20 minutes ago, long after normal business hours. "Ethan, I noticed you left the office early today. Everything all right? The presentation doesn't need to be perfect, just authentic. That's what investors respond to. Get some rest." S. Short, professional, but laced with something that felt almost like concern. That was Sophia. Always aware, always 3 steps ahead, always somehow knowing when her people were struggling even when they hid it well. Ethan had worked at Horizon Tech for 6 years, joining when it was just 20 employees crammed into a converted warehouse in the West Loop. He'd watched Sophia build the company from a promising startup into a major player in enterprise software, now employing over 300 people across 4 offices. She was 34, brilliant, and driven in ways that intimidated most people. But she'd never intimidated Ethan. Maybe that's why they worked well together. He closed his laptop without opening the presentation file. Tomorrow. He'd deal with it tomorrow. Sleep came fitfully, full of dreams where he stood in front of a boardroom unable to speak, his voice stolen, while Sophia watched with those dark, analytical eyes that seemed to see straight through every defense he'd built. Morning arrived with Maya jumping on his bed at 6:30, her energy boundless in a way that made Ethan feel ancient. Daddy, can we have pancakes? How about cereal today, baby? Daddy's got an early meeting. Her face fell, and guilt twisted in his chest. When had he become the parent who always said no, who always chose work over the small moments? Tell you what, he said, pulling her close. This weekend we'll make a huge pancake breakfast. The works. Chocolate chips, whipped cream, strawberries. Deal? Deal. She threw her arms around his neck, and for a moment the weight lifted. He got her ready for school, packed her lunch, and dropped her at the before care program that cost a fortune but was worth every penny. The teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, gave him a sympathetic smile that told him he probably looked as exhausted as he felt. Rough night? Is it that obvious? Only to another parent, she said kindly. Hang in there, Mr. Cole. The train into the loop was packed. Commuters pressed together in shared misery. Ethan stood near the door, watching the city wake up through fingerprint-smudged windows. He used to bring his camera on this commute, capturing moments of urban life that most people missed. Now the camera bag sat in his closet, untouched for over a year. Horizon Tech occupied the top 5 floors of a glass tower overlooking the Chicago River. The office was everything modern startups aspired to be: open floor plans, standing desks, a kitchen stocked with cold brew and kombucha, meeting rooms named after famous inventors. But underneath the Silicon Valley aesthetic, the culture was intense. Sophia demanded excellence, and her team delivered. Ethan stepped off the elevator at 8:15, already late for the product development stand-up. His team was gathered around a table, laptops open, coffee cups scattered like offerings to the gods of productivity. Sorry, he muttered, sliding into his seat. Maya had a slow morning. No worries, boss, said Jennifer, his lead engineer. She was 26, whip-smart, and one of the few people who seemed to genuinely understand the juggling act of his life. We were just reviewing the API integration issues. The meeting blurred past. Ethan contributed when needed, but his mind kept drifting. He needed to finish the investor presentation. He needed to review the product roadmap. He needed to follow up on the hiring pipeline. The list was endless, and he was so tired. Ethan. He looked up to find everyone staring at him. Jennifer's expression was carefully neutral. Sorry, what? I asked if you wanted to push the launch date, she said gently. We're cutting it close, and everyone's pretty burned out. He should say yes. The smart move was to give the team breathing room, but Sophia had promised investors a Q2 launch, and they were already in the final weeks of the quarter. No, he said. We're committed. Let's just power through. The energy in the room shifted, enthusiasm replaced by resignation. Ethan felt it but couldn't afford to care. They'd thank him when the launch succeeded. The rest of the morning evaporated in back-to-back meetings. He grabbed lunch at his desk, a sad salad from the company cafeteria, and was halfway through when his calendar pinged. One-on-one with Sophia Lynn, conference room Volta, 1 p.m. His stomach tightened. Their weekly check-ins had been on the calendar for years, but lately they felt different, more personal, less about work and more about everything else. Ethan gathered his laptop and headed to the executive floor, where the energy shifted from startup casual to corporate polish. Sophia's assistant David waved him through with a knowing smile. She's expecting you, she. Conference room Volta was smaller than the fishbowl meeting spaces downstairs, designed for confidential conversations. Sophia was already there, standing by the window with her phone to her ear, speaking rapid Mandarin. She held up a finger, indicating she'd just be a moment. Ethan sat and took the opportunity to really look at her. Sophia Lynn was striking in a way that had nothing to do with conventional beauty and everything to do with presence. She wore her power comfortably. Tailored black pants, a silk blouse the color of charcoal, minimal jewelry except for a jade pendant her mother had given her. Her dark hair was pulled back in a low bun, and her expression was focused in that way that made people instinctively straighten their posture. She ended the call and turned to him, her features softening in a way they only did in private. Sorry about that. Investor in Shanghai who can't understand time zones. She sat across from him, folding her hands on the table. How are you, Ethan? It was such a simple question, but the way she asked it made his throat tight. I'm fine. Busy with the launch, but fine. Sophia's dark eyes studied him for a long moment. You left at 4 yesterday. I had to pick up Maya from school. She had a dentist appointment. I'm not criticizing, Sophia said quickly. I'm glad you're prioritizing her. I just want to make sure you're not sacrificing your own well-being in the process. I'm managing. Are you? The question was gentle but direct. Because Marcus mentioned you've been working past midnight most nights. Jennifer said you fell asleep during a design review last week. And I can see it, Ethan. You look exhausted. Heat crept up his neck. I'll be fine once we get through the launch. Sophia leaned back, her expression thoughtful. What if we adjusted your schedule? You could work from home more. We'd maintain the same output expectations, but you'd have more flexibility with Maya. I don't need special treatment. It's not special treatment, it's common sense. She paused. You're one of my best people, Ethan. But you're running yourself into the ground, and that helps no one. There was something in her voice that made him look up, really look at her. Concern, yes, but also something else, something that felt personal in a way that made his pulse quicken. I appreciate it, he said carefully, but I'm okay. Really. Sophia didn't look convinced, but she let it drop. How's the investor deck coming? Almost done. I'll have it to you by end of day. Another lie. They were piling up. They spent the next 30 minutes reviewing product strategy, but Ethan felt her attention on him even when they were discussing technical details. It was unnerving and comforting at the same time. When the meeting ended, Sophia walked him to the door. Ethan, she said, her hand briefly touching his arm. The contact lasted only a second, but it sent electricity through him. Take care of yourself, for Maya's sake, if not your own. I will. He left before she could see how much that simple touch had affected him. That night, after Maya was in bed, Ethan finally opened the investor presentation. The blank slides mocked him. He stared at the cursor blinking in the title field, his mind completely empty. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Sophia. I know you said you're fine, but if you ever need to talk, not about work, just talk, I'm available. Anytime. Ethan stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. How did you get my personal number? The response came quickly. I'm the CEO. I have everyone's personal number. That's not an answer to what I said. He hesitated, then typed, Thank you. I might take you up on that. I hope you do. Ethan set the phone down, his heart racing in a way that had nothing to do with stress and everything to do with the dangerous territory he was approaching. Sophia Lynn was his boss, his CEO, the person who controlled his career, his livelihood, his ability to provide for Maya. Getting close to her in any way that wasn't professional was a catastrophically bad idea. But as he sat alone in his apartment, the city lights stretching endlessly beyond his window, Ethan couldn't deny the truth that had been building for months. He was lonely, desperately, achingly lonely. And Sophia had seen him, really seen him, in a way no one else had. The presentation could wait one more night. Instead, Ethan opened his messages and typed something he knew he shouldn't. Actually, if you're still up, I could use someone to talk to. The response came within seconds. Call me. His hand shook slightly as he dialed her number. She answered on the first ring. Hey, Sophia said, her voice softer than it ever was in the office. No CEO authority, just a person. Talk to me. And for the first time in months, Ethan did. He told her about Rachel leaving, about the note on the counter, about waking up every morning feeling like he was failing both as a father and as a professional. He told her about the photography dreams he'd abandoned, about how he couldn't remember the last time he'd done something just because it made him happy. Sophia listened without interrupting, her breathing steady on the other end of the line. When he finally ran out of words, she spoke. My parents came to this country with nothing, she said quietly. They worked 18-hour days running a restaurant in San Gabriel Valley. I grew up doing homework in the back room, falling asleep to the sound of dishes clanking and my mother arguing with suppliers in Mandarin. Ethan had never heard her talk about her childhood. They wanted me to be a doctor, Sophia continued. Safe, prestigious, stable. When I told them I was dropping out of med school to start a tech company, my father didn't speak to me for 2 years. What changed? I sent them a check for enough money to retire. He called me the next day and said 3 words. You were right. She laughed softly. That was his apology. Do you regret it? The path you chose? There was a long pause. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to have something more than work, a life outside the company. But then I think about all the people we employ, all the families depending on Horizon's success, and it feels selfish to want more. That's not selfish, Ethan said. That's human. Maybe. Another pause. Can I tell you something I've never told anyone? His heart hammered. Of course. Most nights I go home to an empty apartment and wonder if this is all there is. Success, recognition, money, they're not nothing, but they don't keep you warm at night. They don't care how your day went. They don't make you laugh when you're stressed. Her voice dropped. Sometimes I'm so lonely I can barely breathe. Ethan closed his eyes. I know exactly what you mean. I know you do. That's why I wanted to talk to you. They stayed on the phone for 2 more hours, the conversation wandering through everything and nothing. Sophia told him about her favorite dive bar in Chinatown where nobody recognized her. Ethan described Maya's latest obsession with dinosaurs. They debated the best deep dish pizza in Chicago and whether Lou Malnati's or Pequod's deserved the crown. By the time they hung up, it was past midnight, and Ethan felt lighter than he had in months. The investor presentation still wasn't done, but he didn't care. For the first time since Rachel left, he'd connected with another person. Really connected. And it felt like coming up for air after drowning. The calls became routine. Every few nights, long after Maya was asleep, Ethan's phone would buzz with a text from Sophia. You up? And he always was. They talked about everything except work. She asked about Maya's school projects and soccer games. He asked about her family, learning that her younger brother was a concert pianist and her mother still called her every Sunday to ask when she was getting married. She's given up on grandchildren, Sophia said one night with dry humor. Now she just wants me to get a dog so she has something to worry about. Why don't you? A dog? In my apartment? It would get more lonely than I am. The comment landed between them, heavy with meaning. You could always, Ethan started, then stopped himself. What? Nothing. Never mind. Ethan, come on. You can't start a sentence like that and not finish it. He exhaled slowly. You could always make time for something other than work. Someone other than work? Silence stretched between them. When Sophia spoke again, her voice was careful. Are we still talking about hypothetical dogs? I don't know. Are we? More silence. Then, this is dangerous territory. I know. You work for me. I know that too. Then why are we having this conversation? Because, Ethan said quietly, I think we both need someone who understands. And somehow, you're the only person who gets it. He could hear her breathing, could picture her in whatever expensive apartment she lived in, probably standing by a window just like he was. I should go, Sophia said finally. It's late. Yeah, okay. But neither of them hung up. Ethan? Yeah? Same time tomorrow night? A smile tugged at his lips. I'll be here. After she hung up, Ethan stood by his window for a long time, watching the city lights blur and sharpen as his eyes adjusted. Somewhere out there, Sophia was doing the same thing. The thought made him feel less alone. It also made him feel terrified. Because with every conversation, every shared moment of vulnerability, he was falling for a woman he absolutely could not have. And from the careful way she spoke to him, the way her voice softened when she said his name, he was starting to suspect she was falling too. The question wasn't whether this was going to blow up in their faces. The question was when, and how much damage it would cause when it did. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Ethan was in the middle of a product roadmap meeting when David appeared in the doorway, his expression urgent. Ethan, Sophia needs to see you immediately, executive conference room. The room went quiet. Being summoned by the CEO in the middle of a meeting was never good news. Ethan grabbed his laptop and followed David upstairs, his mind racing through possibilities. Had something gone wrong with the launch? Was there a problem with his work? Had someone discovered the late-night phone calls? The executive conference room was packed. Sophia stood at the head of the table, and beside her was Gordon Huang, chairman of the board. The other executives were all present: CFO, COO, general counsel. This was serious. Sophia's eyes met his briefly, and he saw something there he couldn't read. Ethan, sit down, Gordon said, his voice grave. We have news that affects the entire company, but your team especially. Ethan sat, his pulse thundering. Sophia took a breath. 3 days ago, we received an acquisition offer from Vanguard Systems. They want to merge with Horizon Tech in a deal valued at $1.2 billion. The number hung in the air like smoke. After extensive deliberation, Sophia continued, her voice steady and professional, the board and I have decided to accept the offer. The merger will be announced publicly tomorrow morning. Integration begins immediately. Ethan's mind reeled. Vanguard was a massive enterprise software company, 5 times their size. A merger meant restructuring, redundancies, culture clashes. It meant everything changing. What does this mean for product development? He heard himself ask. Gordon leaned forward. Vanguard is impressed with Horizon's technology platform. They want to accelerate integration of our systems into their product suite. That's where you come in, Ethan. Sophia's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. We're putting you in charge of the Technology Integration Task Force. You'll be working directly with Vanguard's CTO and reporting to both boards. It's the most critical role in this entire merger. When do I start? Today, Gordon said. We need to move fast. The meeting continued for another hour, covering logistics, timelines, communication strategies. Ethan took notes mechanically, but his mind was spinning. This was enormous, career-defining. It was also going to consume his life completely. When the meeting finally ended, Sophia caught his eye and gave a small nod toward her office. He followed at a distance, aware of how it would look if they were seen leaving together. In her office, with the door closed, Sophia's professional mask cracked. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I fought for someone else to lead this. I told Gordon it was too much to put on your plate right now. But he overruled you. The board was unanimous. You're the only person they trust with this. She sat on the edge of her desk, suddenly looking exhausted. This is going to be brutal, Ethan. 16-hour days minimum. Weekend work. Complete immersion for the next 3 months. I can handle it. Can you? Really? She gestured at him. You're already running on fumes, adding this kind of pressure. I don't have a choice, do I? Sophia's expression was pained. No, you don't. They looked at each other for a long moment, and Ethan saw his own conflict reflected in her eyes. The late-night calls would have to stop. Whatever had been building between them would have to be buried under the weight of professional responsibility. I should get started, he said quietly. Ethan, wait. Sophia moved closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive. Promise me you'll take care of yourself, and Maya. Don't lose yourself in this. I promise. It was a lie, and they both knew it. The next 3 weeks were a blur of conference calls, documentation reviews, system architecture planning, and negotiations. Ethan's team expanded to include engineers from Vanguard, most of whom resented the merger and made integration as difficult as possible. He worked from 6 in the morning until past midnight. Maya went to before care and after care every day. Weekend mornings were spent catching up on emails. The photography equipment stayed in the closet. The phone calls with Sophia stopped completely. He barely saw her, actually. She was busy managing the executive integration traveling between Chicago and Vanguard's headquarters in Boston. When they did cross paths, their interactions were brief and painfully professional. Marcus noticed first. Dude, you look like death, he said one afternoon, cornering Ethan in the kitchen. When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours? I'm fine. You're not fine. You're barely functioning. Oh, I just need to get through the integration. Then it'll ease up. Marcus shook his head. You've been saying that for 3 weeks. It's not easing up. It's getting worse. He wasn't wrong. Ethan could feel himself unraveling, threads pulling loose one by one. He snapped at his team over minor issues. He forgot meetings. He barely ate. And Maya was getting quieter, more withdrawn. She'd stopped asking him to read bedtime stories because she knew he'd say he was too busy. Last weekend, she'd made him a drawing at school, the two of them holding hands under a rainbow, and he'd glanced at it for 5 seconds before putting it aside to answer an email. The look on her face had gutted him. But what could he do? This was his job. This was how he provided for her, how he kept a roof over their heads and food on the table. She'd understand when she was older. Except deep down, Ethan knew that was bullshit. He was disappearing into work the same way he'd accused Rachel of disappearing. He was becoming exactly what he'd promised himself he'd never be. And he had no idea how to stop. Then, the breaking point came on a Tuesday morning in late June. Ethan had been up until 3 a.m., finalizing integration protocols. He'd slept through his alarm and woke to Maya shaking his shoulder, already dressed for school. "Daddy, we're going to be late." He jolted upright, his head pounding. "What time is it?" "Almost 8. I made myself cereal." Guilt crashed over him. She was 5 years old and making her own breakfast because he couldn't get out of bed. They rushed through the morning routine. Ethan threw on yesterday's clothes, didn't shower, barely brushed his teeth. They made it to school with 2 minutes to spare. "Love you, baby," he said as she climbed out of the car. Maya turned back, her expression serious beyond her years. "Daddy, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just busy with work." "You're always busy with work," she said quietly. Then she walked away, her small backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Ethan sat in the car for 5 minutes, his hands gripping the steering wheel, before driving to the office. The executive presentation was scheduled for 10 a.m. Ethan had prepared for weeks, and this was the moment to prove the integration was on track. Gordon would be there, along with Vanguard's CEO and board members. Sophia would be presenting alongside him. He arrived at the office at 9, giving himself an hour to review his notes and run through the deck. But when he opened his laptop, his mind went completely blank. The slides swam before his eyes. He knew the content. He'd written every word, but suddenly he couldn't process any of it. The letters jumbled together, meaningless. Panic clawed at his chest. Jennifer found him 15 minutes before the presentation, sitting at his desk with his head in his hands. "Ethan? You okay?" He looked up at her, and for the first time in his professional life, he couldn't hide it anymore. "I don't think I can do this." Her expression shifted to alarm. "The presentation? It's in 10 minutes. "I know, He gestured helplessly at his screen. "My mind's not working. I can't think straight." Jennifer sat on the edge of his desk, her voice gentle. "When's the last time you took a day off?" "I don't know, months." "When's the last time you ate a real meal?" He couldn't remember. "Ethan, you're burning out. Anyone can see it." "I can't burn out, not now. This merger will happen with or without you destroying yourself." She squeezed his shoulder. "Take a breath. I'll go with you to the presentation. If you freeze up, I'll jump in." He nodded, grateful for the lifeline. The walk to the executive conference room felt like a death march. Ethan's hands were clammy, his vision slightly tunneled. He could hear his heartbeat in his ears. The room was packed. Gordon at the head of the table, Vanguard's CEO beside him, board members lining both sides, and Sophia sitting near the front, her expression composed but her eyes worried when she saw him. Ethan took his position at the front of the room, advancing to the first slide. "Good morning," he said, his voice sounding distant to his own ears. "Today we'll be reviewing the Q2 integration progress and—" He stopped. The words on the slide were gibberish. He knew what they were supposed to say, but his brain couldn't translate them into speech. Silence filled the room. "Ethan?" Gordon prompted. He advanced to the next slide, hoping it would help. But the same thing happened. His mind was a blank screen, empty of everything except a high-pitched ringing. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "I need a moment." He could feel everyone staring, could see Sophia half rising from her chair, concern etched across her features, could sense Jennifer tensing beside him, ready to intervene. And then his hand started shaking, not a little tremor, a full-body tremor that made the remote clatter against the table. "Ethan, sit down," Sophia said, her CEO voice gone, replaced by something raw and worried. But he couldn't move, couldn't speak. His chest was tight, his breathing shallow, and the room was spinning. "Get him some water," someone said. Jennifer's arm was around his shoulders, guiding him to a chair. A glass appeared in front of him. The executives were murmuring, their voices blending into white noise. And through it all, Ethan had one crystalline thought. He was breaking. Right here, right now, in front of everyone who mattered. The facade he'd maintained for months was shattering, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Sophia crouched in front of him, her hands on his knees, her eyes locked on his. Ethan, look at me. You're okay. Just breathe. He focused on her voice, the anchor in the storm. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it. Slowly, agonizingly, the panic receded. The trembling stopped. His vision cleared. The room was still silent, everyone watching the spectacle of his collapse. I'm sorry, Ethan said again. I can finish the… No, Sophia said firmly. Jennifer will handle the presentation. You're going home. I'm fine now. I can… That wasn't a request. Her voice was steel wrapped in concern. Go home, Ethan. That's an order. He wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was so complete, so total, that he simply nodded. Jennifer squeezed his shoulder as he stood. I've got this. Don't worry. Ethan left the room without looking back, too humiliated to meet anyone's eyes. He made it to his car before the tears came. Sitting in the parking garage, Ethan finally admitted the truth he'd been avoiding for months. He was broken. The job that had once defined him was killing him, and if he didn't change something, he was going to lose everything that actually mattered. Maya's drawing was still in his laptop bag, the two of them holding hands under a rainbow. He pulled it out now, his vision blurring as he traced her crayon lines. When had he stopped being the father she'd drawn? When had work become more important than the little girl who needed him? Ethan sat in that car for a long time, the drawing in his hands, and made a decision that terrified him more than any presentation ever could. He couldn't do this anymore. Not the job, not the pressure, not the slow erasure of everything he used to be. He had to quit. For Maya, for himself, for any chance at a life worth living. That night, after putting Maya to bed, Ethan opened his laptop and began typing. Dear Sophia, the resignation letter took Ethan 3 hours to write. He deleted and rewrote it a dozen times, each version feeling either too emotional or too cold. Finally, at 2 a.m, he settled on something simple and honest. Dear Sophia, effective immediately, I am resigning from my position as head of product development at Horizon Tech. This decision comes after careful consideration of my personal circumstances and my responsibility to my daughter. The past 6 years have been the most professionally rewarding of my career, and I'm grateful for every opportunity you've given me. However, I've reached a point where I can no longer maintain the balance required to be both the father Maya deserves and the employee this company needs. I will work with Jennifer to ensure a smooth transition of my responsibilities. Thank you for your understanding. Respectfully, Ethan Cole. He read it one final time, his cursor hovering over the send button. Everything in him wanted to delete it, to pretend he could somehow power through, to convince himself that tomorrow would be different. But he thought of Maya's face that morning, the quiet resignation in her voice when she said he was always busy. He thought of his trembling hands in the conference room, the humiliation of falling apart in front of the entire executive team. He thought of the man he used to be, the one who carried a camera everywhere, who saw beauty in ordinary moments, who actually laughed. That man had disappeared so gradually, Ethan hadn't noticed until he was completely gone. He hit send before he could change his mind. The email whooshed away into the digital void, and Ethan sat back, his heart pounding. He'd just walked away from 6 years of his life, from financial security, from the identity he'd built his entire adult life around. He should feel terrified. Instead, he felt lighter than he had in months. Sleep came easier that night, dreamless and deep. Morning arrived with Maya climbing into his bed, her small body warm against his side. Daddy, you didn't set your alarm. Ethan checked his phone. 8:15. On any other day, he'd already be late, already racing through the morning routine with one eye on his emails. But today was different. I don't need an alarm today, baby. How about we take our time this morning? Maya's eyes widened. Really? Can we make pancakes? We can make the biggest pancakes you've ever seen. They spent the next hour in the kitchen, flour dusting every surface as Maya helped mix the batter. She stood on a step stool beside him, carefully pouring chocolate chips into the pan while Ethan flipped pancakes that were probably too large but made her giggle with delight. These are the best pancakes ever, Maya declared through a mouthful of whipped cream and strawberries. Even better than IHOP? Way better. Because you made them, Daddy. Something cracked open in Ethan's chest. When was the last time he'd done something this simple with her? When had he forgotten that this, right here, was what actually mattered? After breakfast, he dropped Maya at school without rushing, actually walking her inside instead of doing the drive-through drop-off. Mrs. Rodriguez noticed immediately. "Well, this is a pleasant surprise," she said, smiling. "Playing hooky from work, Mr. Cole?" "Something like that," Ethan replied. "Good for you." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "That little girl talks about you constantly. She's so proud of her daddy. I hope you know that." The words hit harder than they should have. "Thank you. I needed to hear that." Driving away from the school, Ethan had no plan. For the first time in years, his day was completely unstructured. No meetings, no deadlines, no crisis to manage. The freedom was disorienting. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Dude, did you actually quit? Please tell me this is a joke." Then Jennifer. "Ethan, what happened? Call me when you can." And finally from David. "Sophia wants to see you. She's cleared her morning. Can you come in?" Ethan stared at that last message for a long time. Part of him wanted to ignore it, to avoid the confrontation he knew was coming. But he owed Sophia a real conversation, not just an email sent in the middle of the night. He typed back, "I'll be there in 30 minutes." The drive into the city felt surreal. Ethan had made this commute thousands of times, but today the skyline looked different. Sharper somehow, more vivid. Or maybe he was just actually seeing it for the first time in months. Verizon Tech's lobby was busy with the usual morning rush, employees streaming toward the elevators with coffee cups and laptops. A few people he knew nodded in greeting, unaware that he was no longer one of them. Ethan felt like a ghost moving through his old life. David was waiting by the elevators on the executive floor. "She's in her office," he said quietly. "And Ethan? She's not happy." "I didn't expect her to be." Sophia's office door was closed. Ethan knocked once and heard her voice, clipped and formal. "Come in." She was standing by the window, her back to the door, shoulders rigid. The morning light cut across the room in sharp angles, and for a moment Ethan just stood there, memorizing the silhouette of her against the Chicago skyline. "Close the door," Sophia said without turning around. He did, the soft click seeming unnaturally loud. Sophia turned to face him, and Ethan saw immediately that David had understated things. She wasn't just unhappy, she was furious. "Sit down," she said. Sophia, sit down." He sat. Sophia moved to her desk but didn't sit. She stood behind her chair, gripping the back of it like she needed something to hold on to. "Explain to me," she said, her voice dangerously quiet, "why I received your resignation via email at 2 in the morning. Explain why my head of product development, the person leading the most critical integration this company has ever undertaken, quit without a conversation, without notice, without any warning whatsoever." "I tried to tell you I was struggling," Ethan said carefully. "You saw what happened yesterday in the presentation." "What I saw was someone who needed support, not someone about to abandon ship." She leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "Do you have any idea what position this puts me in? What position it puts the company in? We have board meetings scheduled for next week. Vanguard is expecting integration updates. Your team is already underwater, and now they don't have a leader. Jennifer can lead them. She's better at it than I ever was." "That's not the point." Sophia's composure cracked, her voice rising. "The point is that you gave up. The point is that when things got hard, you ran." The accusation stung because part of him wondered if she was right. "I didn't run. I made a choice for my daughter." "That's convenient," Sophia said coldly, "wrapping your exit in nobility. I'm doing this for Maya. Meanwhile, you're throwing away everything you've built here." Ethan stood, anger flaring. "Everything I built here was killing me. You saw that yesterday." "Everyone saw it. I fell apart in front of the entire executive team because I was so burned out I couldn't function. So we would have adjusted your workload. We would have found support." "You couldn't adjust this workload, Sophia, you know that. The integration required everything I had and more. And I didn't have anything left to give." They stared at each other across the desk, the air crackling with tension. Sophia's voice dropped, and when she spoke again, something shifted beneath the anger, something that sounded like hurt. "You could have talked to me, really talked to me, instead of sending a coward's email in the middle of the night." "We haven't really talked in 3 weeks," Ethan said quietly. "Not since the merger was announced." "Because we've both been drowning in work. No, because whatever was happening between us got too complicated, and we both knew it. Sophia went very still. What are you talking about? The phone calls, Sophia. The late-night conversations. The way you looked at me during our one-on-ones. He took a breath. The way I looked at you. The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia moved around the desk slowly, stopping a few feet away from him. Her expression was unreadable. That's why you're really leaving, isn't it? She said softly. Not because of the workload, because this got complicated. I'm leaving because I can't be the father Maya needs while working 16-hour days, but you're right. The complication didn't help. So you're running from both things. The job and whatever this is between us. I'm choosing my daughter, Ethan said firmly. That's not running. That's prioritizing what actually matters. Sophia's jaw tightened. She looked away, and for a moment, Ethan saw past the anger to something more vulnerable underneath. When do you want your last day to be? She asked, her voice back to its professional tone. I was hoping today could be it. I'll work with Jennifer remotely if needed for transition, but I can't come back to the office. Because of me. Because of a lot of things. Sophia nodded slowly. Fine. David will handle your exit paperwork. I'll have your final paycheck processed by end of week, including unused vacation time and your stock options from the merger. You'll be taken care of financially. Thank you. She walked to the door and opened it, a clear dismissal. But as Ethan moved to leave, she spoke again. For what it's worth, I understand what you're doing for Maya. I wish I didn't agree with it, but I do. Ethan turned back. Sophia was still holding the door, her expression carefully controlled, but her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Those phone calls, she said quietly. Those late-night conversations. They were the best part of my week, too. I want you to know that. Before Ethan could respond, she closed the door between them. He stood in the hallway for a moment, his heart hammering, before walking away from Horizon Tech for the last time. The next week passed in a strange limbo. Ethan cleaned out his home office, boxing up awards and projects that seemed to belong to someone else. He ignored the concerned calls from former colleagues and the email from Gordon requesting a meeting to discuss his decision. Jennifer kept him updated on the integration progress, but Ethan found he didn't care as much as he thought he would. What he did care about was Maya. They fell into a new rhythm. Ethan woke up early not because of work stress, but to make breakfast. He walked Maya to school and picked her up every afternoon. They went to the park, the aquarium, the children's museum. They baked cookies and built blanket forts and watched animated movies that Ethan had been too busy to enjoy before. Maya bloomed under the attention. Her teacher mentioned that she seemed happier, more engaged. Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Ethan aside one afternoon with tears in her eyes. Whatever you're doing differently, keep doing it. She's like a different child. The problem was money. Ethan's savings would last about 4 months if he was careful. He applied for jobs in his field, but the positions that interested him all required the same intensity that had broken him at Horizon. And the ones that offered better balance paid barely half his previous salary. He was sitting at his laptop one afternoon, staring at job postings with growing despair, when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ethan Cole. A woman's voice, professional and crisp. This is Amanda Chen from Vanguard Systems. Do you have a moment to talk? His stomach dropped. Sure. I'm calling because Gordon Huang gave me your contact information. I understand you recently left Horizon Tech. That's correct. I won't waste your time with pleasantries, Mr. Cole. I'm Vanguard's VP of Human Resources, and I've been reviewing the integration progress. Or lack thereof, to be frank. Your departure created a significant gap in leadership, and the timeline has already slipped by 3 weeks. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not calling to make you feel guilty, Amanda said. I'm calling because I've been reading the exit interviews from other employees, and a pattern is emerging. Burnout, overwork, unsustainable expectations. Horizon isn't unique in this. It's an industry-wide problem, but it's one we're committed to solving at Vanguard. Ethan frowned. I'm not sure what this has to do with me. I want to offer you a position, not in product development. Something new we're creating, Director of Employee Wellbeing and Culture. Your job would be to prevent exactly what happened to you from happening to anyone else. He sat up straighter. You're offering me a job to prevent burnout? More than that. We want to completely reimagine how we approach work-life balance, mental health support, parental leave policies, flexible scheduling. This would be a senior leadership role reporting directly to our CEO. And before you ask, yes, the position itself would model the principles we're trying to implement. Reasonable hours, remote work flexibility, real boundaries. Why me? Because you walked away from a six-figure salary and a high-profile role to protect your well-being and your family. That takes courage. And it tells me you understand both sides of this equation, the business pressure and the human cost. Ethan's mind raced. What's the catch? The catch is that you'd be building this from scratch. There's no playbook, no established team. You'd be creating something entirely new, and not everyone at Vanguard will support it. Some executives still believe that brutal hours equal commitment. And the salary? Amanda named a number that was 20% higher than what he'd been making at Horizon. Ethan nearly dropped the phone. I need to think about this, he managed. Of course, I'll email you the formal offer details. Take a week to consider, but Ethan, I meant what I said. We need people who understand that the old way of working is broken. Help us build something better. After she hung up, Ethan sat in stunned silence. Then he did the only thing that made sense. He called the one person whose advice he trusted most. The phone rang 4 times before Marcus answered. The prodigal developer returns. How's unemployment treating you? Marcus, I need your honest opinion about something. His friend's tone shifted immediately. Talk to me. Ethan explained the offer from Vanguard, the role, the opportunity, and the risks. Marcus listened without interrupting. So what do you think? Ethan finished. Am I crazy to consider this? I think this is exactly what you need, Marcus said without hesitation. You've been trying to fit yourself into a box that doesn't work anymore. This is a chance to build something that actually aligns with who you are now. But I don't know anything about HR or organizational culture. You know what it feels like to burn out? You know what breaks people? That's more valuable than any MBA. Marcus paused. Real talk, though. Are you worried about seeing Sophia if you join Vanguard? Because the companies are merging. You'd probably have to work together. Ethan had been carefully avoiding that thought. I don't know. Maybe you should call her. Talk to her about this before you decide. I can't. She was so angry when I quit. I don't think she wants to hear from me. Bullshit. That woman cares about you. I'm not blind. I saw how she looked at you, how you looked at her. Oh, it doesn't matter how we looked at each other. She's my former boss. It would never work. Except now she's not your boss, Marcus pointed out. And if you join Vanguard in a completely different division, she definitely won't be your boss. Kind of removes the whole ethical complication, doesn't it? Ethan hadn't considered that angle. You think I should take the job to be closer to her? I think you should take the job because it's perfect for you. What you do about Sophia is a separate question. But man, life's too short to walk away from someone who makes you feel the way she clearly does. After hanging up, Ethan pulled up his text messages. Sophia's name was there, their last exchange from weeks ago still visible. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. What would he even say? That he might be joining the company that was merging with hers? That he'd been thinking about her constantly since he left? That those late-night phone calls had meant more to him than he'd admitted? Before he could overthink it, he typed, "Can we talk? Not about work, about everything else." He hit send and immediately regretted it. She probably wouldn't even respond. Why would she? He'd quit without warning and walked out of her life. His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. When and where? They met at a coffee shop in Wicker Park, deliberately far from the corporate towers downtown. Ethan arrived first, choosing a corner table away from the windows. He ordered a black coffee he didn't want and spent 10 minutes repositioning the sugar packets before forcing himself to stop. Sophia walked in at exactly 3 o'clock, because of course she did. She was never late. She looked different outside the office. No power suit, just dark jeans and a gray sweater that made her look younger, more approachable. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders, and she carried a leather bag instead of her usual sleek briefcase. She spotted him and headed over, her expression guarded. "Hi," Ethan said, standing awkwardly. "Hi." She sat across from him, ordered a green tea from the hovering barista, and then turned her attention fully to him. "You said we needed to talk." "I did." Now that she was here, Ethan had no idea where to start. How have you been? Busy. The merger is consuming everything. She paused. How's Maya? She's good. Really good, actually. Happier than I've seen her in a long time. I'm glad. Sophia's expression softened slightly. You made the right choice leaving. I was angry when you did it, but I understand now. I got a job offer, Ethan said abruptly. From Vanguard, Director of Employee Well-Being and Culture. Sophia's eyebrows rose. Amanda Chen reached out to you. You knew about this. I recommended you. She took a sip of her tea, watching him over the rim of the cup. Gordon asked me who from Horizon might fit the role. I gave him 3 names. Yours was at the top of the list. Ethan sat back, stunned. Why would you do that? Because you're perfect for it, and because you deserve a second chance at something that doesn't break you. She set down her cup. Are you going to take it? I don't know. That's part of why I wanted to talk to you. If you're worried about working near me, don't be. Vanguard's HR division is completely separate from Horizon's operations. We'd rarely interact. That's not what I'm worried about. Sophia met his eyes, and something passed between them, an acknowledgement of all the things they'd been avoiding. Then what are you worried about? She asked quietly. That I walked away from you, Ethan said, and I'm not sure if I did it for the right reasons. The coffee shop noise faded into background static. It was just the 2 of them in this moment, everything finally out in the open. You walked away because you needed to, Sophia said. I was angry because I didn't want you to go. Not from the company, and not from my life. She looked down at her hands. Those phone calls were the only time I felt like someone actually saw me. Not the CEO, not the person building a company, just me. I saw you, Ethan said. I still see you. Then why did you stop calling? Because I was terrified. Because you were my boss, and I couldn't figure out how to separate what I felt from the professional relationship we had. Because every conversation made me want things I couldn't have. Sophia's voice was barely above a whisper. What things? You. In my life, not as my CEO or my professional contact, as someone who actually matters. She looked up, her eyes bright. You matter to me too, Ethan, more than I'm supposed to admit. They sat in silence, the weight of the confession settling between them. If I take this job at Vanguard, Ethan said slowly, we wouldn't have the same barrier anymore. You wouldn't be my boss. No, I wouldn't. So what happens then? Sophia reached across the table, her hand covering his. The touch sent electricity through him, just like it had that day in her office months ago. Then we figure it out, she said. No guarantees, no roadmap. We just figure it out together. Ethan turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. I have a 5-year-old daughter who comes before everything else. She's the priority, always. I would never ask you to choose differently, Sophia said. I like that about you, the fact that you put her first. And you have a company to run. Probably 2 companies soon, depending on how the merger goes. Which is exactly why I need people in my life who remind me there's more to existence than quarterly earnings. She squeezed his hand. I want to try this, Ethan, whatever this is. But slowly, carefully, with eyes wide open. That sounds terrifying. It does, she agreed. But the alternative is going back to those separate lonely apartments, and I'm tired of being alone. Me too. They stayed in that coffee shop for 2 more hours, talking the way they used to on those late-night phone calls. Sophia told him about the stress of the merger, about board members who questioned every decision, about her mother's latest attempt to set her up with the son of a family friend. Ethan told her about Maya's new obsession with space, about the job applications he'd been half-heartedly submitting, about his fear that he'd made a massive mistake leaving Horizon. You didn't make a mistake, Sophia said firmly. You chose yourself and your daughter. That's never wrong. When they finally left, the sun was setting, painting the Chicago sky in shades of orange and purple. They stood on the sidewalk, neither quite ready to leave. I'm going to take the job, Ethan said. The Vanguard position, if the offer still stands. Sophia smiled, genuine and warm. It does. Amanda will be thrilled. And this? Us? We take it one day at a time. She stepped closer, her hand finding his again. But Ethan, I'm done pretending I don't want this. I'm done hiding behind professional distance. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. She fit perfectly against him, her head tucked under his chin. They stood like that for a long moment, two people who'd been lonely for too long finally finding something that felt like home. "There's one condition, though," Ethan said into her hair. "What's that?" "You have to meet Maya before this goes any further. If she doesn't like you, that's a deal breaker." Sophia pulled back to look at him, her expression nervous. "What if she doesn't like me?" "Then you better bring your A game," Ethan said with a grin. "She's a tough critic, especially when it comes to people getting close to her dad." "No pressure, then?" "None at all." They parted with a promise to talk the next day, to take things slow, to build something real instead of rushing into anything that might collapse under its own weight. Ethan drove home with the windows down, the spring air rushing through the car, feeling lighter than he had in years. He'd made the right choice leaving Horizon. And maybe, just maybe, he was about to make another right choice. When he picked up Maya from his mother's house, she'd been watching her for the afternoon, his daughter took one look at his face and grinned. "You look happy, Daddy." "I am happy, sweetheart. Because you don't have to work all the time anymore?" "That's part of it." Maya studied him with those two perceptive eyes. "Is there another part?" Ethan knelt down to her level. "Maybe, but I'm not sure yet. If it becomes something, you'll be the first to know. Deal?" "Deal." She threw her arms around his neck. "I like when you're happy. You smile more." That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan sat down and formally accepted the position at Vanguard. He drafted an email to Amanda Chen, professional and grateful, outlining his start date and his initial thoughts on the role. Then he opened a new message to Sophia. "I said yes to the job. Start date is 3 weeks from now. Also, how does Saturday afternoon work for you? There's someone I'd like you to meet. Fair warning, she's 5, she loves dinosaurs, and she's been known to interrogate adults about their intentions. Come prepared." The response came quickly. "Saturday works. Should I be nervous?" "Absolutely terrified, but that's half the fun." "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "Maybe a little. See you Saturday, Sophia." "See you Saturday, Ethan." He set the phone down and looked around his apartment. Same furniture, same walls, same city lights through the windows. But everything felt different now. For the first time since Rachel left, since his life had imploded, since he'd lost himself in the wreckage of trying to be everything to everyone, Ethan felt like he could breathe. The future was uncertain. The job at Vanguard would have its own challenges. The relationship with Sophia was new and fragile and complicated by their history. But for once, Ethan wasn't afraid of the uncertainty. He was ready to build something new, something sustainable, something that honored both the father he wanted to be and the man he'd forgotten existed. And maybe, if he was very lucky, he wouldn't have to do it alone. Saturday morning arrived with Maya bouncing on Ethan's bed at 7 a.m., her energy level already at maximum capacity. "Is today the day someone's coming over?" she asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Ethan had told her the night before that a friend would be visiting, keeping the details deliberately vague. "Yes, sweetheart. Her name is Sophia, and she's someone Daddy used to work with." "Is she nice?" "Very nice. But you can decide that for yourself when you meet her." Maya tilted her head, studying him with that unnerving perception she'd inherited from somewhere. "Do you like her?" "I do. Is that okay?" She considered this seriously. "Is she going to be like Rachel?" The question hit him like a punch to the chest. Maya had only mentioned Rachel once since she'd left, asking why she didn't come around anymore. Ethan had given her an age-appropriate answer about sometimes people needing to go different directions, but clearly his daughter remembered more than he'd realized. "No, baby, Sophia is nothing like Rachel." He pulled Maya close. "And here's the thing. If you don't like her, or if you're not comfortable, that's okay. You always come first. Always." Maya seemed satisfied with this answer. "Can we make cookies before she comes? The chocolate chip ones?" "Absolutely. Best way to impress a guest is fresh cookies." They spent the morning baking, the apartment filling with the warm smell of butter and sugar. Maya wore her favorite dinosaur t-shirt and insisted on arranging the cookies on a plate in a very specific pattern. Ethan watched her fuss over the presentation and felt a surge of love so strong it almost knocked him sideways. This was his life now. Slow. Saturday mornings, chocolate chip cookies, a 5-year-old's serious concentration as she counted to make sure each side of the plate had exactly the same number of cookies. not boardroom presentations or product launches or emails that couldn't wait until Monday. He'd made the right choice leaving Horizon. He knew that now, with absolute certainty. Sophia was due at 2 o'clock. By 1:30, Ethan had cleaned the apartment twice and changed his shirt 3 times. Maya watched his nervousness with amusement. "Daddy, why are you acting weird?" "I'm not acting weird. You cleaned the bathroom 2 times. We never clean the bathroom 2 times. I want the apartment to look nice." "It looks the same as always." Maya patted his hand reassuringly. "It's okay to be nervous. I get nervous before school presentations, too." Ethan laughed despite himself. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm 5.5, she said seriously. "That's pretty old." The doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock, and Ethan's heart kicked into overdrive. He took a breath, nodded to Maya, and opened the door. Sophia stood in the hallway holding a small gift bag, and Ethan's first thought was that she looked even more nervous than he felt. She dressed casually, dark jeans and a soft blue sweater, but her posture was stiff, her smile uncertain. "Hi," she said. "Hi, come in." Sophia stepped inside, and her eyes immediately found Maya, who was standing behind Ethan's leg, watching the newcomer with intense scrutiny. "You must be Maya," Sophia said, crouching down to the little girl's eye level. "I'm Sophia. Your dad has told me a lot about you." Maya didn't respond immediately, her expression thoughtful. Ethan held his breath. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Maya asked finally. Sophia seemed to consider the question very seriously. "I think they're fascinating. What's your favorite?" "Velociraptor. They were really smart and hunted in packs." "I didn't know that. That's very cool." "They could also run really fast, like 35 miles per hour. "Faster than I can run, that's for sure," Sophia said with a genuine smile. Maya stepped out from behind Ethan's leg, her posture relaxing slightly. "Did you bring that for me?" She pointed at the gift bag. "If it's okay with your dad." Sophia glanced up at Ethan, who nodded. Maya took the bag and pulled out a book, a beautifully illustrated encyclopedia of prehistoric creatures. Her face lit up in a way that made Ethan's chest warm. "This is awesome. Look, Daddy, it has pictures of all the different periods." "What do you say, Maya?" "Thank you." Maya threw her arms around Sophia in an impulsive hug that clearly surprised them both. Sophia's expression softened, her hands gently patting Maya's back. "You're very welcome." Just like that, the ice was broken. The afternoon unfolded with surprising ease. Maya showed Sophia her room, pointing out her collection of stuffed animals and the solar system mobile hanging from the ceiling. She explained in great detail her theory about why Pluto should still be considered a planet, and Sophia listened with the same attention she probably gave to board presentations. "You know," Sophia said thoughtfully, "I think you're right. Pluto got a raw deal. That's what I told my teacher, but she said the scientists made the rules. Sometimes scientists change their minds when they get new information. Maybe they'll change their minds about Pluto too." Maya beamed at having an adult take her seriously. They moved to the living room where the cookies were waiting. Maya insisted on serving them herself, carefully placing one cookie on each plate with the concentration of a surgeon. "These smell amazing," Sophia said, taking a bite. "Did you make these?" "Me and Daddy. I put in the chocolate chips." "Well, you did an excellent job. These might be the best cookies I've ever had." Maya glowed under the praise. Ethan watched the interaction from the kitchen, where he was making coffee, and felt something shift inside him. Sophia wasn't just being polite or going through the motions. She was genuinely engaging with his daughter, meeting her at her level, treating her like a person whose opinions mattered. Rachel had never done that. She'd tolerated Maya, but there had always been a distance, a sense that the child was an obstacle to the life she really wanted. Watching Sophia now, Ethan realized how wrong that had been. Maya wasn't an obstacle. She was the whole point. "Daddy, can Sophia see my drawings?" Maya called out. "If she wants to." "I would love to see your drawings," Sophia said. Maya grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the hallway, chattering about the picture she'd made at school of a T-Rex fighting a Triceratops. Sophia let herself be led, glancing back at Ethan with a smile that made his heart stumble. They spent another hour looking at Maya's art, building a block tower that eventually collapsed in a cascade that made Maya giggle uncontrollably, and reading from the dinosaur book. Eventually, Maya started to fade, her energy depleted from the excitement. "Sweetheart, Why don't you watch a movie in your room for a bit? Ethan suggested. Give Sophia and Daddy a chance to talk. Maya looked between them, her expression suddenly serious again. Are you going to be here next time I see you? She asked Sophia directly. Sophia met the question head on. I hope so. If that's okay with you. It's okay with me. You're nice. And you didn't pretend to like my drawings when they're kind of messy. Your drawings aren't messy. They're creative. There's a difference. Satisfied, Maya hugged Sophia again before heading to her room with her tablet. Alone with Sophia in the living room, Ethan felt the atmosphere shift. She sat on the couch and he joined her, leaving a careful distance between them. Well, he asked, what's the verdict? She's incredible, Ethan. Smart, thoughtful, articulate. You're raising an amazing kid. I'm trying. It's terrifying most of the time. She adores you. That's obvious. Sophia turned to face him. And she's protective of you. Did you notice how she watched me at first? She was evaluating whether I was safe. She asked me this morning if you were going to be like Rachel. Sophia's expression tightened. What did you tell her? That you're nothing like Rachel, and you're not. He reached for her hand. Rachel tolerated Maya because she came with me. You actually see her. There's a huge difference. She's easy to see. She's remarkable. Sophia's thumb traced circles on his palm. I was so nervous coming here today. I kept thinking, what if she hates me? What if I say the wrong thing? You did perfectly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. I start at Vanguard in 2 weeks, Ethan said. Amanda sent over the contract. The benefits package is incredible. They have on-site childcare, flexible hours, mental health support, parental leave that actually means something. That's exactly what this industry needs, Sophia said. Someone willing to put people before profit margins. It feels strange, designing policies instead of products. You're still designing something that matters, maybe something more important than software. She squeezed his hand. And you'll be good at it because you've lived it. You know what breaks people. I know what almost broke me. Almost, Sophia emphasized. But you walked away before it did. That takes courage. Ethan studied her face, the way the light caught in her dark eyes, the small scar on her chin that he'd never noticed before. Can I ask you something? Anything. What do you want from this? From us? Sophia took a breath. Honestly, I don't know exactly. I've spent the last 10 years building a company. I've dated occasionally, but nothing serious. Nothing that felt worth the time investment. She met his eyes. But with you, it's different. Those phone calls, the conversations we had, I felt less alone. And today, watching you with Maya, seeing how you've rebuilt your life around what actually matters, I realized I want that too. Not the same thing, but that sense of purpose beyond work. You think I can give you that? I think we might be able to give each other that. If we're careful, if we're honest. I have a lot of baggage, Sophia. A failed relationship, a kid, trust issues I'm still working through. That's a lot to ask someone to take on. And I'm a workaholic CEO with control issues and a tendency to prioritize business over everything else, Sophia countered. We're both messy. The question is whether we want to be messy together or stay lonely separately. Ethan laughed softly. When you put it that way, the choice seems obvious. Does it? He leaned closer, his free hand coming up to cup her face. Yeah, it does. The kiss was soft and tentative, a question more than a statement. Sophia's hand slid to the back of his neck, her fingers tangling in his hair, and the kiss deepened into something that felt inevitable and right. When they pulled apart, Sophia's eyes were bright, her cheeks flushed. That was long overdue, Ethan finished. I was going to say worth the wait, but that works too. They heard Maya's door open and immediately put distance between them. His daughter appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Are you still here? She asked Sophia, sounding pleased. I am. Is that okay? Yeah, do you want to stay for dinner? Daddy makes really good spaghetti. Ethan raised his eyebrows at Sophia, leaving the choice to her. I would love to stay for dinner, Sophia said. They cooked together, Maya helping stir the sauce while Sophia set the table and Ethan boiled pasta. It was domestic and ordinary and perfect. They ate in the kitchen, Maya talking nonstop about her upcoming field trip to the planetarium, Sophia asking questions that showed she was actually listening. After dinner, Maya insisted on showing Sophia her favorite cartoon, and they all squeezed onto the couch together, Maya in the middle. Ethan glanced over his daughter's head to find Sophia watching him, her expression soft and content. This could be his life, Ethan realized. Not just the financial stability or the career recovery, but this: family dinners and cartoons and someone who looked at him like he was worth staying for. By 8:30, Maya was fading fast. Ethan carried her to bed, tucking her in with her favorite stuffed elephant. "I like Sophia," Maya murmured, already half asleep. "She's nice to you." "She is nice. I'm glad you like her. Is she going to be around a lot? Maybe. Would that be okay?" Maya nodded against her pillow. "Just don't let her leave like Rachel did. That made you sad." The words hit harder than they should have. "I'll be careful, baby, I promise." "Good. Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, Princess." When he returned to the living room, Sophia was standing by the window looking out at the city lights. She turned when she heard him. "She's asleep?" "Out like a light." Ethan joined her at the window. "She said she likes you." "The feeling is mutual." Sophia leaned into him, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "This is nice. Scary, but nice." "Why scary?" "Because I could get used to this, and that makes me vulnerable in ways I haven't been before." "Welcome to the club," Ethan said wryly. "I've been terrified since the moment I realized I had feelings for you." "When was that?" He thought about it. "Probably during one of those late-night phone calls. You were telling me about your brother's piano recital, and you laughed at something he'd said, and I remember thinking I wanted to be the person who made you laugh like that." Sophia turned to face him fully. "You do make me laugh. You make me feel seen in ways I'm not used to." "That goes both ways." They stood there for a while, the city sprawling below them, two people trying to figure out how to build something real in the wreckage of their previous lives. "I should probably go," Sophia said eventually, though she made no move to leave. "It's late." "You could stay," Ethan offered, then quickly clarified. "On the couch. Nothing presumptuous, just so you don't have to drive across the city this late." Sophia smiled. "That's thoughtful, but I should get home. I have an early call with the Tokyo office tomorrow." "The CEO life never stops." "No, it really doesn't." She grabbed her jacket from the chair. "But maybe I'm ready to start making room for other things, starting with this." Ethan walked her to the door, and they lingered in the doorway like teenagers. "Thank you for today," Sophia said, "for trusting me with Maya. I know that wasn't easy." "You made it easy. You were perfect." "I don't know about perfect, but I tried." She kissed him softly. "Talk tomorrow?" "Definitely." After she left, Ethan stood in his quiet apartment, the faint smell of her perfume still lingering in the air. His phone buzzed with a text. "I had a wonderful time today. Maya is extraordinary, and you're an incredible father. I'm falling for both of you, and that terrifies me. But I'm ready to try." Ethan typed back, "I'm terrified too, but I think the best things in life are usually the scary ones. Let's figure this out together." The response came quickly. "Together. I like the sound of that." The weeks before Ethan's start date at Vanguard passed in a blur of preparation, paperwork, and carefully orchestrated moments with Sophia. They were taking things slow, mindful of Maya's adjustment and their own complicated history. Sophia came for dinner twice a week, each visit feeling more natural than the last. Maya warmed to her completely, especially after Sophia brought her a telescope for stargazing. "You're spoiling her," Ethan said one evening after Maya had gone to bed, leaving them alone on the couch. "Is that a problem?" "Not yet, but she's going to expect the moon now." "Well, she is interested in astronomy." Sophia grinned. "Besides, I like making her happy. She deserves it." They were sitting close, Sophia's head on Ethan's shoulder, his arm around her. These quiet moments had become Ethan's favorite part of the week. No pressure, no expectations, just two people learning each other slowly. "I met with Amanda yesterday to go over my initial strategy," Ethan said. "She wants me to audit the entire company culture within the first 90 days. That's ambitious. That's terrifying. I'm supposed to interview employees across all divisions, identify pain points, and recommend systemic changes. What if I miss something? What if I make recommendations that tank productivity?" Sophia lifted her head to look at him. You won't. You know what to look for because you've lived it. Trust your instincts. My instincts told me to resign via email at 2 a.m., so my track record isn't great. Your instincts told you to prioritize your well-being and your daughter. That was exactly right. She poked him gently. Stop second-guessing yourself. Yes, ma'am. I'm serious, Ethan. You're about to do something really important. Change an entire company culture? That's huge. People are going to push back, especially old-school executives who think burnout is a badge of honor. You need to believe in what you're doing. He kissed her forehead. How are you so good at the pep talk thing? Years of practice motivating skeptical investors and reluctant board members. She settled back against him. Plus, I believe in you. That makes it easier. The first day at Vanguard felt like stepping into an alternate universe. The office was massive. 3 floors of a downtown high-rise. Modern, but somehow warmer than Horizon had been. Amanda Chen met Ethan in the lobby personally, walking him through security and up to the executive floor. Your office is here, she said, opening a door to a space that was smaller than he'd expected but filled with natural light. I know it's not corner office territory, but we wanted you near the HR division and employee services. It's perfect, Ethan said honestly. A desk, a couch, windows overlooking the Chicago River. Better than perfect? Good, because you're about to get very familiar with it. Amanda handed him a tablet. This has your schedule for the first week. Orientation, system training, meetings with division heads. It's going to be intense. I can handle intense. I know you can. That's why you're here. She paused at the door. Ethan, I want you to know that you have full support from the C-suite on this initiative, but you're also going to encounter resistance. Some managers have been running their teams the same way for 20 years. They're not going to love being told to change. Any advice? Lead with data. Show them the cost of burnout, turnover rates, decreased productivity, healthcare expenses. Make the business case, not just the moral one. Got it. Amanda left him to settle in, and Ethan spent the next hour setting up his office and reviewing the employee data he'd been given access to. The numbers were staggering. Vanguard's annual turnover rate was 32%, well above industry average. Exit interviews cited overwork, lack of work-life balance, and unsustainable expectations as the top 3 reasons for leaving. This was exactly what had almost destroyed him at Horizon, and it was happening to hundreds of people across Vanguard's offices. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. How's day 1? Overwhelming, but good. The scope of this is massive. You've got this. Dinner at your place tonight? I'll bring takeout. You're on. Maya's been asking about you. Just Maya? Okay, fine. I've been asking about you too. Much better. See you at 6. The week blurred into a succession of meetings, interviews, and data analysis. Ethan spoke with engineers who worked 70-hour weeks, project managers who hadn't taken vacation in 2 years, support staff who ate lunch at their desks because there was no time for breaks. The stories were heartbreaking and familiar. One woman, a senior developer named Patricia, broke down crying during their conversation. I love my job, she said, wiping her eyes. I love the work we do. But I have 2 kids at home I barely see. I missed my son's soccer championship because of a deadline. He didn't even seem surprised when I told him I couldn't make it. He just said, It's okay, Mom. Work is important. And I realized he thinks work is more important than him. Ethan knew that feeling intimately. What if you could do the same work but with better boundaries? Flexibility to attend those games? I'd stay here forever, Patricia said immediately. But that's not how this industry works. Maybe it should be, Ethan said quietly. He compiled his findings into a preliminary report, working late into the evenings at his apartment while Maya did homework at the kitchen table. The recommendations were bold: mandatory vacation time, flexible scheduling, remote work options, caps on weekly hours, mental health resources, and parental support programs. This is going to cost money, Marcus said when Ethan showed him the draft. His friend had joined him for coffee on a Saturday morning while Maya was at a playdate. A lot of money. It'll save money in the long run. Turnover is expensive. Burnout leads to mistakes, which cost even more. I agree with you. I'm just warning you that the CFO might not. Then I'll make the case until he does. Ethan took a sip of his coffee. How are things at Horizon? Marcus grimaced. Honestly, it's chaos. The integration is behind schedule without you leading it. Jennifer's doing her best, but she doesn't have the authority to push back when Vanguard makes unreasonable demands. Morale is low. How's Sophia handling it? She's Sophia, calm, composed, working around the clock to make it work. Marcus studied him. You two are really doing this, huh? The relationship thing? We're trying. It's complicated, but good complicated. I'm happy for you, man. You deserve this. The following Monday, Ethan presented his initial findings to the executive team. The conference room was packed. Amanda, the CFO, the COO, division heads, and several board members. His hands shook slightly as he pulled up the first slide, and for a moment he was back in that Horizon conference room where he'd fallen apart. But this time was different. This time he believed in what he was saying. "Good morning," Ethan began, his voice steady. "Over the past 3 weeks, I've interviewed 83 employees across all divisions. What I found was a culture that values output over well-being, hours over productivity, and presence over results, and it's costing us millions." He walked them through the data, the turnover rates, the healthcare costs, the productivity metrics that showed burned-out employees made more mistakes. Then he presented his recommendations, explaining how each one would address specific pain points. The pushback came immediately. "This is coddling," said Robert Chen, the COO. "We're in a competitive industry. People need to be willing to put in the work." "I agree," Ethan said calmly, "but there's a difference between hard work and unsustainable work. Right now, we're asking people to sprint a marathon. Eventually, they collapse." "Our competitors don't have these policies," another executive argued. "Our competitors also have higher turnover rates than we do. And when employees leave, they take institutional knowledge with them. We're training people for our competition." The CFO, a woman named Margaret, leaned forward. "What's the cost of implementing these changes?" Ethan had prepared for this question. "Approximately $8 million in the first year, primarily for additional hiring to cover the reduced hours and expanded mental health resources. But we'll save an estimated $12 million in reduced turnover and increased productivity. The ROI is positive within 18 months. Margaret looked impressed despite herself. "You've done your homework. This is too important not to." The meeting lasted 2 hours. By the end, Ethan had tentative approval to pilot his recommendations with 2 divisions, with the understanding that results would determine company-wide rollout. It wasn't everything he'd hoped for, but it was a start. Amanda caught up with him afterward in the hallway. "That was excellent," she said. "You handled the pushback perfectly." "I was terrified the entire time." "Couldn't tell." "You made your case with data and passion. That's exactly what this needed." She smiled. "Welcome to the fight, Ethan. It's going to be a long one, but I think we might actually win it." That evening, Ethan came home to find Sophia already at his apartment, cooking dinner with Maya. They'd exchanged keys the week before, a small step that had felt monumental. "Something smells amazing," he said, dropping his bag by the door. "Sophia's making stir-fry," Maya announced, "and she's teaching me how to use chopsticks." "I'm teaching her badly," Sophia corrected with a laugh. "But we're having fun." Ethan watched them together, Sophia patient and encouraging, Maya focused and determined, and felt something settle in his chest. This was real, this was happening, and it was worth every risk. Over dinner, he told them about the presentation, how scared he'd been, how the executives had pushed back but ultimately agreed to a trial run. "That's amazing, Daddy," Maya said seriously. "You're going to help a lot of people." "I hope so, sweetheart." After Maya went to bed, Sophia pulled Ethan onto the couch, curling into his side. "I'm proud of you," she said quietly. "What you're doing at Vanguard, it matters. You're changing lives. One pilot program at a time. That's how all big changes start." She tilted her head up to kiss him. "You're doing important work, Ethan. Don't minimize it." He held her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat against his chest. "I couldn't do this without you," he said. "You and Maya. You're the reason I keep pushing." "We're all the reason," Sophia murmured. "You, me, Maya. We're building something together." And for the first time in longer than Ethan could remember, he believed in that future. Not just as a possibility, but as something real and attainable. The broken pieces of his life were finally forming something whole. 3 months into the pilot program, the results exceeded even Ethan's optimistic projections. The two test divisions showed a 47% reduction in turnover, productivity metrics improved by 23%, and employee satisfaction scores jumped from a dismal 3.2 out of 10 to a respectable 7.8. The data was undeniable, and even Robert Chen, the skeptical COO, had to admit the program was working. But success brought its own challenges. Other divisions wanted immediate implementation. Managers demanded training on the new policies, and HR needed additional staff to support the expanded mental health resources. Ethan found himself working long hours again, the irony not lost on him that his job preventing burnout was pushing him toward the same edge he'd fallen over at Horizon. The difference this time was that he recognized the warning signs early, and he had people who wouldn't let him fall. "You're doing it again," Sophia said one Thursday evening. She'd come over for dinner and found him still at his laptop at 9 o'clock, Maya already asleep. "The thing where you sacrifice yourself for the work. I'm just finishing up the expansion proposal for the board meeting tomorrow." "You've been just finishing for 3 hours." She closed his laptop firmly. "Talk to me. What's going on?" Ethan rubbed his face, exhaustion pulling at him. "I have 12 division heads requesting immediate rollout, a board that wants detailed implementation plans, and a CEO who keeps reminding me that we're watching the budget carefully. I'm one person trying to change an entire company culture, and sometimes it feels impossible." Sophia moved behind him, her hands kneading the knots in his shoulders. "So, delegate, you have a team now, right? Use them." "They're already overwhelmed." "Then request more resources. Amanda told you to ask for what you need." "I don't want to seem like I can't handle this." Sophia's hands stilled. She walked around to face him, her expression serious. "Ethan, listen to me. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's smart management. You're trying to prove you can do this alone, but that's exactly the mindset you're fighting against in this company." He knew she was right. The same voice that had told him he could power through at Horizon was whispering the same lies now. "What if I fail?" he asked quietly. "What if I can't actually change anything?" "Then you'll have tried, which is more than most people do." Sophia took his hands. "But you're not going to fail. You're already succeeding. You just need to let other people help carry the weight." The next morning, Ethan walked into Amanda's office before he could second-guess himself. "I need 3 more people on my team," he said without preamble. "A project manager, a data analyst, and a training coordinator. The demand is too high for the current structure." Amanda looked up from her computer, eyebrows raised. "That's direct?" "You told me to ask for what I need. I need this if we're going to scale the program company-wide." A smile tugged at her lips. "I'll get you the head count. Anyone else you want to steal from other departments?" "Actually, yes. Jennifer Marks from Horizon. She's brilliant. She understands the mission, and she's wasted managing a team that doesn't appreciate her." "Consider it done." Amanda made a note. "Anything else?" "Just thank you for trusting me with this." "You're earning that trust every day, Ethan. Don't forget that." The board meeting that afternoon went smoother than expected. Ethan presented the pilot results, outlined the expansion plan, and fielded questions with a confidence that surprised him. When Margaret, the CFO, asked about scaling costs, he had detailed projections ready. When Robert questioned whether the results would hold across other divisions, Ethan cited research from 3 similar companies that had implemented comparable programs. By the end of the presentation, the board voted unanimously to expand the program company-wide over the next 6 months. Walking out of that conference room, Ethan felt lighter than he had in weeks. He pulled out his phone and texted Sophia. "Board approved full expansion. We're actually doing this." Her response came immediately. "Told you, I'm so proud of you. Dinner tonight to celebrate?" "Can't. Maya has a school thing tomorrow." "I'll cook. My place. Just the 2 of us after Maya's asleep?" "It's a date." That evening's school event was a science fair where Maya had created a presentation on the solar system. She stood beside her poster board with fierce pride, explaining to anyone who would listen about the differences between terrestrial and gas giant planets. Ethan watched her, his heart swelling. This was why he'd left Horizon. This was why he'd taken the risk of starting over, so he could be here for moments like this so his daughter would never doubt that she came first. "Mr. Cole?" He turned to find Maya's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, approaching with a warm smile. I wanted to tell you how much Maya has flourished this semester, she said. Her confidence has grown tremendously. Whatever you're doing at home, it's working. I'm just trying to be present, Ethan said honestly. That's more than many parents manage. She talks about you constantly, and about Sophia too. Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes twinkled. She mentioned that Sophia helped her with the research for this project. Sophia's been great with her. Maya's lucky to have people who care so much. The teacher squeezed his arm. And you're lucky to have found someone who understands what matters. After the science fair, Ethan and Maya stopped for ice cream, a tradition they'd started to celebrate her school achievements. She ordered her usual chocolate chip cookie dough with rainbow sprinkles, and they sat outside despite the evening chill. Did you see how many people liked my poster? Maya asked, her face smeared with chocolate. Everyone loved it, baby. You did amazing work. Sophia helped me understand about Jupiter's moons. Did you know Europa might have an ocean under the ice? I did not know that. Sophia's pretty smart, huh? Maya nodded seriously. She's really nice to me, not like Rachel. Ethan's spoon paused halfway to his mouth. Maya rarely mentioned Rachel anymore, and when she did, it was usually to compare her unfavorably to their current situation. What do you mean, sweetheart? Rachel always seemed like she was pretending to be nice, like it was hard for her. Maya swirled her spoon through melting ice cream. But Sophia is nice for real. She listens when I talk, and she doesn't check her phone when I'm showing her stuff. The observation was so perceptive it made Ethan's chest ache. You're very smart, you know that. I'm 5.5, almost 6. She looked up at him with those wise eyes. Are you going to marry Sophia? Ethan nearly choked on his ice cream. Whoa, where did that come from? Emily's mom got married last month, and Emily said you only get married when you love someone a lot. Do you love Sophia a lot? He hadn't said those words out loud yet, not even to Sophia. They'd been careful, taking things slow, but Maya's directness cut through all the careful navigation. I care about her very much, Ethan said carefully, but marriage is a big decision. It takes time. But you're happy when she's around. You smile more. I do smile more, he admitted. She makes me happy. Is that okay with you? Yeah, she makes me happy too. Maya returned to her ice cream, apparently satisfied with the conversation, but as they drove home, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her question. Did he love Sophia? The answer felt obvious. Yes, absolutely, completely. But saying it out loud would change things, would add weight and expectation to something that had been blissfully free of both. The next evening, Ethan arrived at Sophia's apartment in Lincoln Park carrying wine and flowers. She answered the door in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, and his heart did that stuttering thing it always did when he saw her. You didn't have to bring flowers, she said, but she was smiling as she took them. I wanted to. Besides, we're celebrating. Her apartment was smaller than he'd expected, sleek and modern, but somehow impersonal. There were no photos on display, minimal decoration, everything in shades of gray and white. It felt more like a hotel suite than a home. I know it's sterile, Sophia said, following his gaze. I'm never here long enough to make it feel lived in. We could change that, Ethan said. Add some personality. Maybe a photo or two. I'd like that. She moved into the kitchen, where something was simmering on the stove. I hope you like coq au vin. It's one of the few things I can actually cook. It smells incredible. They ate at her small dining table, talking about the board meeting, about Maya's science fair, about the merger progress between Horizon and Vanguard. The conversation flowed easily, the way it always did with them. Jennifer starts on Monday, Sophia said. I signed off on her transfer this afternoon. She's excited about joining your team. I can't believe you approved it. She's one of your best people. She is. But she'll do more good helping you than staying in a role that's burning her out. Sophia took a sip of wine. Besides, I can afford to lose good people to good causes. It's when I lose them to burnout, or better offers, that it hurts. The merger must be hell right now. It's challenging, she admitted. Integration always is, but we're making progress. Vanguard's systems are actually more robust than I expected, and their team is starting to trust us. Us meaning Horizon? Meaning me specifically. Sophia smiled wryly. Apparently there was concern that I'd try to dominate the merged entity. I've been working hard to prove I'm collaborative. You've always been collaborative. You just don't suffer fools. True. She reached across the table for his hand. But enough about work. Tell me what Maya said about me helping with the science fair. Ethan relayed the conversation, watching Sophia's expression soften. She's such a special kid, Sophia said quietly. Sometimes I can't believe how lucky I am that you both let me into your lives. We're the lucky ones, Ethan countered. You could be with anyone. Someone without the baggage of a 5-year-old and a messy past. I don't want anyone else. Sophia's eyes held his. I want this. You, Maya, the messy, complicated reality of building something real. The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Maya asked me yesterday if I was going to marry you, Ethan said before he could stop himself. Sophia's eyes widened. She did? What did you say? That marriage is a big decision that takes time, but she said something that stuck with me. He stood, pulling Sophia up with him. She said I smile more when you're around, that you make me happy. You make me happy too, Sophia said softly. I know we said we'd take things slow. I know we've only been doing this for a few months, but Sophia, I need you to know. He paused, his heart hammering. I'm falling in love with you. Hell, I think I've been falling since those first phone calls. And it terrifies me, but it also feels like the most right thing in my life. Sophia's breath caught. Her hands came up to frame his face, her eyes shining. I'm in love with you too, she whispered. I have been for a while. I was just scared to say it. Scared of what? Of wanting something this much. Of letting someone matter this much. My whole life I've protected myself by not needing anyone. And then you and Maya came along and destroyed every defense I had. Ethan kissed her, pouring everything he felt into it. Sophia responded with equal intensity, her hands sliding into his hair, her body pressed against his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his. Stay tonight, she said. Please. I don't want you to leave. I can't. I need to get back to Maya. My mom's watching her, but I know, I understand. Sophia smiled despite the disappointment in her eyes. That's one of the things I love about you. You always put her first. Come home with me then, Ethan said impulsively. Stay at my place. Maya would love to wake up and find you there. And so would I. Sophia's expression transformed. Are you sure? Completely sure. They drove back to Ethan's apartment together, Sophia following in her own car. His mother was surprised but gracious when they arrived, giving Sophia a warm hug and whispering to Ethan, She's lovely. Don't mess this up. I'll try not to, Mom. After his mother left, Sophia stood uncertainly in the living room, suddenly looking vulnerable in a way she never did in boardrooms. I've never done this before, she admitted. The domestic thing. Being part of someone's daily life. Neither have I. Not like this. Ethan took her hand. We'll figure it out together. They checked on Maya, who was sound asleep with her stuffed elephant. Sophia stood in the doorway, watching the little girl with such tenderness that Ethan felt his throat tighten. She's perfect, Sophia whispered. She is. And she adores you. They went to bed in Ethan's room, the door left open in case Maya needed him. Sophia curled into his side, her head on his chest, and they talked in quiet voices about everything and nothing until sleep claimed them both. Ethan woke to Maya's delighted squeal at 6:30 in the morning. Sophia, you're here! Did you have a sleepover with Daddy? He opened his eyes to find his daughter standing in the doorway, beaming. Sophia stirred beside him, blinking awake. Good morning, Maya, Sophia said, her voice rough with sleep. Is it okay that I'm here? It's the best. Maya launched herself onto the bed, landing between them. Can we make pancakes? The big ones like last time? Pancakes sound perfect, Ethan said, pulling both his girls close. Best way to start the day. They spent the morning in the kitchen, flour everywhere, Maya chattering nonstop while Sophia and Ethan worked side by side. It was chaotic and messy and absolutely perfect. This was family, Ethan realized. Not the picture-perfect version from magazines, but the real thing, laughter and syrup-sticky hands and a 5-year-old explaining dinosaur facts between bites of pancake. And the woman he loved fitting into it all, like she'd always been there. After breakfast, Maya insisted on showing Sophia her latest drawings, and Ethan watched them from the doorway. Sophia sat on the floor of Maya's room, genuinely engaged as his daughter explained each crayon masterpiece in elaborate detail. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Heard through the grapevine that Jennifer's joining your team. Nice steal. She's perfect for it. How's everything at Horizon? Crazy but good. Merger's almost complete. Sophia's been amazing through all of it. You picked a winner, man. I know. Still can't believe she wants to be with someone like me. Someone like you? Dude, you're a catch. Stop selling yourself short. Ethan smiled at the phone, then looked back at Sophia and Maya. His daughter was now demonstrating her cartwheel technique while Sophia applauded enthusiastically. Marcus was right. He needed to stop questioning why Sophia chose him and just accept the gift he'd been given. Later that afternoon, after Sophia left to deal with work emergencies and Maya was absorbed in a movie, Ethan pulled out his old camera bag from the closet. The equipment was dusty from months of neglect, but everything still worked. He'd been so focused on rebuilding his life that he'd forgotten about rebuilding himself. The parts of him that had nothing to do with being a father or an employee. The parts that had loved capturing beauty in ordinary moments. "Daddy, what's that?" Maya asked, noticing the camera. "Something I used to love doing before I got too busy. Want to learn?" Her eyes lit up. "Can I take pictures?" "Absolutely." They spent the next hour taking photos around the apartment. Maya's shots were chaotic and often blurry, but a few captured unexpected moments of beauty. Light streaming through the window, her stuffed animals arranged in careful rows, Ethan's coffee cup on the table. "These are really good, baby," he said, reviewing the images. "Can we go to the park and take more?" "Tomorrow. I promise." That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan edited the photos on his laptop. His hands remembered the movements, the subtle adjustments that turned a snapshot into something more. For the first time in over a year, he felt that creative spark reignite. His phone rang. Sophia's name lit up the screen. "Hey," he answered. "Everything okay? Just wanted to hear your voice before bed. Is that pathetic?" "If it is, we're both pathetic. I was about to call you." Great minds. He could hear the smile in her voice. "Thank you for today. For letting me be part of your morning routine. It meant more than you know." "You're welcome anytime. Maya's already asked when you're coming back." "How about tomorrow night? I could bring dinner." "Perfect. I'll make sure she saves all her dinosaur facts for you." They talked for another hour, the conversation wandering through comfortable territory. When they finally said goodnight, Ethan sat back in his chair, looking at the photos on his screen and thinking about the life he was building. It wasn't the life he'd planned. It was messier, more complicated, built on the ruins of what came before. But it was real. It was his. And for the first time since everything fell apart, Ethan Cole was genuinely, completely happy. 6 months into the company-wide rollout, Vanguard's transformation was undeniable. Employee retention had climbed to industry-leading levels. Productivity metrics exceeded projections across every division, and the company's Glassdoor rating had jumped from 2.8 stars to 4.6. Trade publications were writing articles about Vanguard's radical approach to work-life balance, and other tech companies were reaching out to Ethan asking how they could replicate the model. The success should have felt triumphant. Instead, Ethan found himself facing an unexpected crisis that threatened everything he'd built. It started with an email from Gordon Huang marked urgent. Ethan was at his desk reviewing employee feedback surveys when the message appeared, its subject line making his stomach drop. "Board meeting? Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Attendance mandatory." No context, no agenda, just a summons that felt ominous. Ethan immediately called Amanda. "Do you know what this is about?" he asked when she picked up. There was a long pause. "I was hoping they wouldn't move this fast." "Move what fast? Amanda, what's going on?" "There's been pushback from some of the old guard at Vanguard. Executives who think the culture changes have gone too far. They've been gathering data to make their case to the board." Ethan's blood ran cold. "What kind of data?" Quarterly earnings came in slightly below projections. Not significantly, and there are a dozen factors that could explain it, but they're arguing that the reduced hours and increased benefits are cutting into profitability. "That's insane. Our retention savings alone have offset the program costs." "I know, but they're framing it as prioritizing employee comfort over shareholder value. And some board members are listening. Amanda's voice was tight with frustration. Robert Chen is leading the charge. He's never been on board with this, and now he's got ammunition. After hanging up, Ethan sat in his office trying to process the information. He'd known there would be resistance, but he'd thought the results spoke for themselves. The idea that the entire program could be dismantled because of one quarterly miss felt impossible. His phone buzzed. Sophia, I just heard about the board meeting. Are you okay? Not really. How did you find out? Gordon called me 20 minutes ago asking for Horizon's perspective on the culture changes. I think they're building a case against the program, Ethan. He closed his eyes. What did you tell him? The truth. That Horizon's partnership with Vanguard has been more successful because of the culture shift, not in spite of it. That employees are more engaged, more creative, more committed. But I don't know if it'll be enough. I can't lose this, Sophia. This work, these changes, they matter. They're saving people from what almost destroyed me. I know. Which is why you're going to fight like hell tomorrow. Her voice was fierce. You have the data, you have the testimonials, and you have me backing you up. We're not letting them undo this. That night, Ethan stayed up past midnight preparing his defense. He compiled turnover statistics, productivity reports, employee satisfaction surveys, healthcare cost reductions, and projected long-term savings. He pulled quotes from exit interviews where people credited the new policies with why they stayed. He built a presentation that told the story not just in numbers, but in human terms. Around 1 a.m., there was a soft knock on his door. He looked up to find Sophia standing there in her pajamas and one of his old sweatshirts, holding 2 cups of coffee. I used the key, she said. Hope that's okay. Maya let me in before she went back to sleep. It's more than okay. He accepted the coffee gratefully. What are you doing here? Couldn't sleep knowing you were up fighting this alone. She sat beside him, scanning his laptop screen. Show me what you've got. They worked together for the next 2 hours. Sophia's business acumen sharpening his arguments, her experience with board politics helping him anticipate objections. By 3 a.m., they had something formidable. This is solid, Sophia said, rubbing her tired eyes. You're going to walk in there and remind them why they approved this in the first place. What if it's not enough? She turned to face him fully. Then we regroup and find another way. But Ethan, you've already changed hundreds of lives. Even if they kill the program tomorrow, you've proven it works. Other companies are watching. The movement doesn't stop with Vanguard. I don't want it to stop at all. I know, so let's make sure it doesn't. They finally went to bed around 4, curled together in Ethan's room. He didn't sleep much, his mind racing through scenarios and rebuttals, but having Sophia beside him made the anxiety bearable. Maya woke them at 6:30, climbing into bed between them with her usual morning energy. Why are you both awake so early? She asked, bouncing slightly. Daddy has an important meeting today, Sophia explained, smoothing Maya's tangled curls. So we were preparing. Is it the kind of meeting where people might disagree? Yes, sweetheart, Ethan said. But sometimes disagreements are how we make things better. Maya considered this seriously. Mrs. Rodriguez says when people disagree, you should listen first and then explain your thinking with evidence. Sophia laughed softly. Your teacher is very wise. That's exactly what Daddy's going to do. After getting Maya ready for school and dropping her off, Ethan drove to Vanguard with Sophia following in her car. They'd decided she should attend as a representative of Horizon's interests in the merger, giving her a legitimate reason to be in the room. The boardroom was packed when they arrived. All 12 board members were present, along with the C-suite executives. Robert Chen sat at Gordon's right hand, a thick folder in front of him that Ethan knew contained the arguments against the program. Good morning, Gordon said, his expression neutral. Thank you all for coming on short notice. We're here to discuss the future of our employee well-being initiative in light of recent financial performance. Robert didn't wait for an invitation. Our Q3 earnings were down 4% from projections. At the same time, our operational costs have increased by nearly $8 million, the majority of which went to implementing Mr. Cole's programs. The correlation is clear. Correlation isn't causation, Ethan said calmly. Those earnings were affected by multiple factors, including market fluctuations and the merger integration costs. Blaming the culture program is intellectually dishonest. Robert's jaw tightened. The fact remains that we're spending millions on benefits and reduced hours, while our competitors are outpacing us in growth. Short-term growth, Sophia interjected. I've analyzed our competitors' models. They have turnover rates averaging 38% annually. They're constantly training new employees, losing institutional knowledge, and dealing with the hidden costs of burnout. Vanguard's turnover is now at 11%. That's a strategic advantage that will compound over years. Margaret, the CFO, leaned forward. Ethan, walk us through the actual numbers, not projections, actual ROI from the program to date. This was the opening he needed. Ethan pulled up his presentation on the main screen. In the 6 months since full implementation, we've saved $4.2 million in reduced turnover alone. Recruiting and training costs for a senior engineer average $85,000. We've retained 49 senior employees who, based on historical data, would have likely left. That's over $4 million right there. He advanced to the next slide. Additionally, our healthcare costs have decreased by 18% because employees are utilizing preventive care instead of emergency services for stress-related conditions. That's another $1.3 million in savings. Those are soft savings, Robert argued. Money we might have spent, not revenue we've generated. Revenue generation is up too, Ethan countered. Our product development cycle time has decreased by 22% because teams aren't constantly rebuilding after key people leave. That's allowed us to bring 3 new products to market this quarter instead of 2. The revenue impact of that additional product is $6.8 million annually. He pulled up employee testimonials next, reading them aloud. Patricia Chen, senior developer. I was planning to leave tech entirely until these changes were implemented. Now I'm the most productive I've been in my career because I'm not exhausted all the time. Michael Torres, product manager. I watched my father die of a stress-induced heart attack at 52. These policies might have saved his life. They're definitely saving mine. Jennifer Marks, implementation lead. I've worked at 4 tech companies. This is the first one that treats employees like humans instead of resources to be consumed. The room was quiet. Even Robert looked uncomfortable. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, Ethan said, his voice steady but passionate. These are people whose lives we've changed, parents who now see their kids, employees who aren't having panic attacks in conference rooms, human beings who can build careers without sacrificing their health. Gordon spoke up. Robert, you've made your concerns clear, but I'm looking at these numbers and I'm not seeing evidence that the program is hurting us financially. If anything, it's positioning us for sustainable long-term growth. I agree, said another board member, a woman named Dr. Patricia Walsh. I've been in this industry for 30 years. I've watched brilliant people burn out and leave. What Ethan's built here is exactly what tech needs. We'd be foolish to dismantle it. The tide was turning. Ethan could feel it. Robert made one last attempt. We're setting a precedent that could make us less competitive. Other companies will see this as weakness. Other companies are calling me asking how to implement similar programs, Amanda said quietly. They see it as the future, not weakness. Gordon looked around the table. I'm calling for a vote. All in favor of continuing the employee well-being program with full support and funding? 9 hands went up immediately. 2 abstained. Only Robert voted against. The program continues, Gordon announced. Robert, I appreciate your concern for our bottom line, but the evidence supports continuation. Ethan, excellent work. Keep pushing forward. The relief that washed over Ethan was so intense he felt lightheaded. Sophia caught his eye from across the room, her smile radiant. After the meeting dispersed, several board members approached Ethan personally to express their support. Dr. Walsh shook his hand firmly. My daughter works in tech, she said quietly. She had a breakdown last year from overwork. I've been watching what you're doing here with great interest. Thank you for fighting for this. Robert was the last to leave. He paused at the door, looking back at Ethan. You won today, he said, but I'll be watching the numbers. If this program starts costing us market position, we'll have this conversation again. That's fair, Ethan replied. All I ask is that you judge it on comprehensive data, not cherry-picked quarters. Robert nodded curtly and left. Sophia waited until they were alone before crossing to Ethan and pulling him into a fierce hug. You did it, she said against his shoulder. You actually did it. We did it. I couldn't have built that argument without you. She pulled back to look at him. You know what this means, right? You've fundamentally changed how a major tech company operates. That's going to ripple through the entire industry. The weight of it was staggering. Ethan had set out to prevent other people from suffering what he'd suffered. Somehow, it had become something much bigger. His phone buzzed, a text from Jennifer. Heard you killed it in the board meeting. Drinks tonight to celebrate? Team's treating. Then Marcus. Word on the street is you just saved the program and made Robert Chen look like an idiot. I'm so proud I could cry. And finally, Maya's school. Reminder, spring recital tomorrow at 2 p.m. We look forward to seeing you there. Ethan stared at that last message, and something clicked into place. Tomorrow afternoon, his daughter would be singing in a school recital. 6 months ago, he would have missed it for a meeting. A year ago, he wouldn't have even considered taking the time off. But tomorrow, he'd be in the front row with his camera, capturing every moment. That was the real victory. Not the board vote or the program continuation, but the fact that he'd built a life where being a present father wasn't a luxury. It was the priority. What are you thinking? Sophia asked, watching his expression. That I'm taking tomorrow afternoon off for Maya's recital, and that I'm not even going to feel guilty about it. She grinned. Good. I'll come with you if that's okay. I want to see her perform. She'd love that. Fair warning, though, kindergarten recitals are long and slightly chaotic. Sounds perfect. They left Vanguard together, and Ethan felt lighter than he had in days. The program was secure. His job was secure. And more importantly, he had people in his life who made all the fighting worthwhile. That evening, after picking up Maya from school and hearing about her day in exhaustive detail, Sophia arrived with Chinese takeout and a small wrapped box. What's this? Maya asked, eyeing the box with interest. An early celebration gift, Sophia said. For your recital tomorrow. I thought you might like something special to wear. Maya tore into the wrapping to reveal a delicate silver bracelet with tiny stars dangling from it. It's beautiful, she gasped. Can I wear it now? It's yours to wear whenever you want, Sophia said, helping her put it on. Maya admired the bracelet, making the stars twinkle in the light. Then she threw her arms around Sophia's waist. Thank you. You're the best. Watching them together, Ethan felt his throat tighten with emotion. This was family. This was what mattered. After dinner, while Maya practiced her song for the recital, Ethan and Sophia cleaned up the kitchen together, moving around each other with the easy familiarity of people who'd done this countless times. I've been thinking, Sophia said as she dried a plate. My lease is up next month. Yeah? You renewing? Actually, I was thinking about not renewing. She set the plate down carefully, turning to face him. My place has never felt like home. It's just where I sleep between work. But here, with you and Maya, this feels like home. Ethan's heart started racing. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I want to live with you, with both of you, if you'll have me. She looked nervous for the first time all day. I know it's a big step. I know we've only been together for 8 months. But Ethan, I love you. I love Maya. I want to be part of your daily life, not just the good moments, but the messy breakfast mornings and the homework battles and all of it. Yes, Ethan said immediately. Absolutely yes. But we should ask Maya. This is her home too. They called Maya in from her room, and she appeared still wearing the star bracelet, her expression curious. What's up? Ethan knelt down to her level. Sophia has a question for you, and it's important. We want to hear what you really think, okay? Maya nodded seriously. Sophia crouched beside Ethan. Maya, how would you feel if I moved in here? If I lived with you and your dad all the time? Maya's eyes went wide. Like every day? You'd be here every morning? Every morning, every evening, all the time. Would you still have to go to work? Yes, but I'd come home to you both every night. Maya looked between them, her expression thoughtful. Would you help me with homework? Anytime you needed help. And make pancakes on weekends? Absolutely. And read bedtime stories? As many as you want. Maya threw her arms around Sophia's neck. Then yes, I want you to live here. Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she hugged Maya back. Ethan wrapped his arms around both of them, his own vision blurring. I guess that's settled then, he said, his voice rough. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan and Sophia sat on the couch planning the logistics of combining their lives. Where her furniture would go, how to merge their belongings, which closet would be hers. "This is really happening," Sophia said, leaning against him. "I'm moving in with you." Having second thoughts? Not even a little bit. She tilted her head up to kiss him. "I've spent so many years alone, convinced that's how it had to be, that success required sacrifice. But you've shown me there's another way." "We've shown each other," Ethan corrected. "I was drowning before you. You reminded me that asking for help isn't weakness. And you reminded me that there's more to life than quarterly earnings and board meetings." She laced her fingers through his. "We make each other better." "We do." The recital the next afternoon was everything Ethan had hoped for. Maya performed her song with enthusiastic volume, if not perfect pitch, her star bracelet catching the light as she gestured dramatically. Ethan captured every moment on camera, while Sophia recorded video on her phone, both of them beaming with pride. Afterward, they took Maya for ice cream, and she chattered nonstop about the performance, convinced she'd been the best singer there. "You were definitely the most confident," Sophia said diplomatically. "That's what matters, right, Daddy?" "Mrs. Rodriguez says confidence is important." "Mrs. Rodriguez is absolutely right," Ethan agreed. As they walked back to the car, Maya between them holding both their hands, Ethan caught Sophia's eye over their daughter's head. She smiled at him, and in that moment, everything was perfect. The weeks that followed were a blur of boxes and furniture rearranging as Sophia officially moved in. Maya helped enthusiastically, insisting on deciding where Sophia's things should go. The apartment that had felt empty after Rachel left slowly transformed into something that felt complete. Ethan came home from work one evening to find Sophia and Maya assembling a bookshelf together, both of them covered in dust and laughing at something. He stood in the doorway watching them, overwhelmed with gratitude for the life he'd stumbled into. At work, the culture program continued to evolve and expand. Other companies began reaching out for consultations, and Ethan found himself becoming something of an industry expert on sustainable work practices. He was invited to speak at conferences, wrote articles for business publications, and even started a podcast discussing work-life balance in tech. Jennifer's team had grown to 8 people, each focused on different aspects of employee well-being. The mental health resources were used by over 40% of employees. The flexible scheduling had increased productivity across every metric. Parents reported feeling more present with their families. 6 months after Sophia moved in, Ethan received an email that made him stop in his tracks. It was from Harvard Business School, asking if he'd be interested in teaching a case study on Vanguard's culture transformation. "They want to teach what we built in business schools," he told Sophia that night, still stunned. "This thing we created is going to be taught to future business leaders." "Of course it is," Sophia said, as if it were obvious. "You changed the game, Ethan. You proved that treating people well isn't just ethical, it's good business. We changed it together. Horizon's partnership made all the difference." The merger between Vanguard and Horizon had been officially completed the previous month, creating one of the largest enterprise software companies in the country. Sophia had been named co-CEO alongside Vanguard's former chief, a role that recognized her leadership while acknowledging the collaborative nature of the new entity. She worked hard, but she also came home. She made it to Maya's soccer games and school events. She had dinner with them most nights. The woman who'd once admitted to working 70-hour weeks had learned to set boundaries. "You know what's funny?" Sophia said one Saturday morning as they made breakfast together, Maya still asleep. "A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be living with a man and his daughter, making pancakes on a Saturday morning instead of answering emails, I would have thought they were insane." "Regret it?" Ethan asked, flipping a pancake. "Not for a second." She slid her arms around his waist from behind. "This is the happiest I've ever been. Work is still important, but it's not everything anymore. You two are everything." Maya appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Are those chocolate chip pancakes?" "The biggest chocolate chip pancakes you've ever seen," Ethan promised. "Awesome. Can we go to the park after breakfast? I want to take pictures with the camera." Ethan had been teaching Maya photography, and she'd developed a genuine talent for composition. Her images had a chaotic creativity that delighted him. "Absolutely. We'll make it a photo adventure." After breakfast, they drove to Lincoln Park, camera equipment in tow. Maya ran ahead, calling back to them about things she wanted to photograph. Ethan and Sophia followed hand in hand, comfortable in their silence. I want to ask you something, Sophia said as they watched Maya try to capture a squirrel on camera. Anything. Do you ever think about having more kids? The question surprised him. I don't know. Do you? I think about it sometimes. Maya's incredible, and watching you with her makes me think I might want to experience that, the whole journey, from the beginning. She looked at him uncertainly. Is that crazy? Not crazy at all. Ethan pulled her close. I'd love to have a child with you, when the time is right. No rush, Sophia said quickly. I'm just thinking about the future. Our future. I think about it too. And every version I imagine includes you. Maya ran back to them, camera in hand. Look what I got. She showed them a surprisingly good shot of the Chicago skyline framed by tree branches. That's beautiful, sweetheart, Ethan said. You've got a real eye for this. Like you, Daddy. She grinned up at him. Can we take a family picture? Of course. They found another family and asked them to take a photo. Ethan, Sophia, and Maya stood together at the edge of the lake, the city rising behind them, Maya between her father and the woman who'd become so much more than just his girlfriend. When they reviewed the photo later, Ethan was struck by how complete they looked. Three people who'd found each other through circumstance and choice, building something real from the broken pieces of their separate pasts. That night, after Maya was in bed, Ethan pulled out his laptop and began looking at properties. The apartment had been perfect for just him and Maya, but with Sophia living there now and potential future expansion, they needed more space. What are you doing? Sophia asked, peering over his shoulder. House hunting. This place is getting cramped, and I thought maybe it's time to find somewhere that's really ours. Not my apartment that you moved into, but a place we choose together. Sophia's expression softened. I'd like that. Somewhere with a yard for Maya. Maybe a room you could turn into a proper photography studio. And a home office for you that's not squeezed into the corner of the bedroom. They spent the next hour browsing listings, dreaming about their future home. By midnight, they had a short list of properties to visit. This is really happening, Sophia said, echoing her words from months ago. We're buying a house together. Having second thoughts? Never. She kissed him softly. I'm all in, Ethan. Completely. Forever. All in. 3 months later, they closed on a 4-bedroom house in Oak Park with a backyard big enough for Maya to run around in and a basement Ethan could convert to a studio. The moving process was chaotic, but Maya treated it like an adventure, excited about having her own bigger room. On their first night in the new house, after all the boxes were moved and Maya was asleep in her new bedroom, Ethan and Sophia sat on the back porch watching fireflies in the yard. Can you believe how far we've come? Sophia asked, her head on his shoulder. Sometimes it feels surreal. A year and a half ago, I was falling apart in a conference room. Now look at us. You built this, Ethan. This life, this family, the changes at Vanguard. All of it. We built it, he corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. They sat in comfortable silence, the summer night warm around them. Somewhere in the house, Maya was dreaming, safe and loved and happy. At work, hundreds of employees were living better lives because of the programs they'd created. And here, in this moment, everything felt exactly right. Marry me, Ethan said suddenly. Sophia lifted her head, eyes wide. What? Marry me, he repeated, turning to face her fully. I don't have a ring yet. I was planning to do this more romantically, maybe during a trip or something special. But sitting here with you, in our house, with our daughter sleeping upstairs, I can't think of a more perfect moment. Tears spilled down Sophia's cheeks. Yes, obviously yes, I love you so much. He kissed her, tasting salt and joy and the promise of their future. We should tell Maya in the morning, Sophia said when they pulled apart. She'll be so excited. She's been asking when we're getting married since you moved in. Smart kid. They went inside together, checking on Maya one more time before heading to bed. She was sprawled across her mattress, her star bracelet still on her wrist, surrounded by stuffed animals and dreams of whatever 5-year-olds dreamed about. She's going to be an amazing big sister someday, Sophia whispered. You sure about that? The having another kid thing? I'm sure about you, about us, about building this family. She took his hand. Everything else? We'll figure out together. In bed that night, Ethan thought about the journey that had brought him here. The breakdown that had felt like an ending had actually been a beginning. Walking away from Horizon had been terrifying, but it had led him to work that mattered and a woman who made him want to be better. The next morning, Maya's shriek of joy when they told her about the engagement could probably be heard 3 houses down. You're getting married. Can I be in the wedding? Can I wear a fancy dress? Can we have cake? Yes to all of it, Sophia laughed, scooping her up. But it won't be for a little while. We need to plan it first. Can we go look at wedding dresses today? How about we celebrate with pancakes first and then talk about the details? Over breakfast, Maya peppered them with questions about the wedding, already planning flower arrangements and color schemes with the seriousness of a professional event coordinator. Ethan and Sophia exchanged amused glances, letting her enthusiasm wash over them. Later that week, Ethan received a call from a journalist at the Wall Street Journal, doing a feature on companies that had successfully transformed their culture. The interview lasted over an hour, covering everything from the initial resistance to the long-term benefits. What would you say to other executives who think this kind of change is impossible? The journalist asked. Ethan thought carefully before answering. I'd tell them it's not impossible. It's just hard. It requires admitting that the old way was hurting people. It requires investing money and resources before you see returns. It requires trusting that treating people well is actually good for business, even when the quarterly numbers don't immediately reflect it. But most importantly, it requires believing that your employees are human beings, not just resources to extract value from. The article ran the following month with the headline, "The Executive Who Quit to Save Himself and Ended Up Saving His Industry." It featured photos of Ethan at Vanguard, quotes from employees about how the programs had changed their lives, and data showing the financial success of the culture transformation. The morning it published, Ethan's phone didn't stop ringing. Media outlets wanted interviews, companies wanted consultations, universities wanted him to speak. The attention was overwhelming and exciting and a little scary. You're going to need a publicist, Marcus joked when he called to congratulate him. And probably an agent. This is big, man. It's too big, Ethan admitted. I just wanted to help people not burn out. You did help people, thousands of them, and now everyone wants to know how. That evening, Ethan declined all the interview requests and turned off his phone. He cooked dinner with Sophia while Maya did homework at the kitchen table, and they ate together as a family, talking about normal things like school projects and weekend plans. This was what mattered, not the articles or the accolades, but the quiet moments with the people he loved. 6 months later, on a crisp October afternoon, Ethan and Sophia stood in the backyard of their house surrounded by family and friends. Maya, now 6.5, stood beside Sophia as her flower girl, beaming with pride in her lavender dress. The ceremony was small and intimate, exactly what they both wanted. Ethan's mother cried through the entire thing. Marcus served as best man, making a speech that had everyone laughing and crying in equal measure. Jennifer and the rest of Ethan's team were there, along with Sophia's family, who'd flown in from California. When the officiant asked if they had vows, Ethan took Sophia's hands. A year and a half ago, I was lost. I'd forgotten who I was outside of work, outside of being a father. I'd forgotten that I deserved happiness, that life could be more than survival. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. You didn't just give me love. You gave me permission to want more from life. You're my partner, my best friend, and the person I want to build everything with. I promise to always put this family first, to support your dreams the way you've supported mine, and to never stop choosing you. Every single day, I'll choose you. Sophia's voice shook as she spoke her vows. I spent so much of my life thinking success meant sacrifice, that to build something meaningful, I had to give up everything else. You showed me that was a lie. You taught me that strength isn't about doing everything alone. It's about knowing when to let people in. You gave me a family I didn't know I needed and a love I didn't think I deserved. I promise to always see you, to always fight for this life we're building, and to never let work become more important than us. You and Maya are my home, and I'll spend the rest of my life grateful that you let me in. There wasn't a dry eye in the yard by the time they finished. The reception lasted into the evening, strings of lights illuminating the backyard as music played and people danced and celebrated. Maya fell asleep on a blanket under the stars, exhausted from dancing with anyone who would indulge her. Late in the night, when most of the guests had left and Maya was being carried inside by Ethan's mother, Sophia and Ethan stood alone in their backyard, swaying to music only they could hear. "Mrs. Cole," Ethan said softly, "how does it feel?" "Perfect. Everything about this is perfect." She looked up at him. "Thank you for not giving up. On yourself, on us, on building something better. Thank you for seeing potential in a burned-out single dad who quit his job via email." They laughed, the sound carrying across the yard. A year later, Ethan stood in the same backyard, this time holding a 3-month-old baby girl named Elena, while Maya showed her the stars through the telescope Sophia had given her years ago. "That's the Big Dipper," Maya explained seriously to her baby sister, who was far too young to understand but gurgled contentedly in Ethan's arms. "And that bright one is Venus. It's not actually a star, it's a planet, but most people don't know that." Sophia emerged from the house with a blanket, draping it over Ethan's shoulders and kissing both him and the baby. "It's getting cold. We should go inside soon." 5 more minutes, Maya pleaded. "I want to show Elena Orion." 5 minutes, Sophia agreed, settling beside Ethan on the porch steps. They sat together, the 4 of them, watching the sky darken and stars emerge one by one. Inside the house, the walls were covered with Ethan's photographs, images he'd taken over the past 2 years capturing the ordinary magic of their lives. Maya's first day of first grade, Sophia laughing in the kitchen, Elena's tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb. At Vanguard, the culture program had become the company's defining feature, attracting top talent from across the industry. Employee satisfaction was at an all-time high, and the financial performance had silenced even Robert Chen's objections. Other companies had implemented similar programs, creating a ripple effect across the tech industry, but none of that mattered as much as this moment. His family, his home, the life he'd built from the ashes of his breakdown. "What are you thinking?" Sophia asked, noticing his quiet. "That I'm grateful. For all of it. The falling apart that led to this coming together. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts. They taught me what matters." Maya turned from the telescope. "Daddy, can we take a family picture? With Elena?" "Absolutely, sweetheart." Sophia set up the camera on a tripod while Ethan arranged them all on the porch steps. Maya held Elena carefully, Sophia and Ethan on either side, the house warm and glowing behind them. The timer clicked, capturing them there, imperfect and real and completely whole. Years from now, Ethan knew, they'd look at that photo and remember this night, the way the October air smelled crisp and clean, the way Maya's voice sounded explaining constellations to her baby sister, the way Sophia's hand felt in his. But more than any single moment, they'd remember the journey that brought them here, the courage it took to walk away from what was destroying him, the risk of building something new, the trust required to let someone in after being hurt. They'd remember that sometimes falling apart is the only way to discover what you're really made of, and that the best things in life often come from having the courage to choose yourself, even when the path forward is terrifying and unclear. Ethan looked at his wife, his daughters, his home, and felt complete. He'd lost everything and found something infinitely better. He'd quit to survive and ended up learning how to truly live. And every single day, he chose this life, this love, this beautiful, imperfect family. Again and again and again, he chose them. And they chose him right back.